Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Welcome to another 2025 ski comparison. Today we are talking about men's all-mountain skis in the 90 millimeter width range, and for our purposes that means 88 to 92.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any outliers here. We even threw some 87s off the wall just to bolster that mid-80s category too. So no, we're good about that.
We're committed to our ranges this year. So yeah, we had like Core 87 and
Amiris Core.
We had those up here originally, and then we were like, you know what? Nope, those fall better into the mid 80 category, which I think will be fun.
Yep.
Because I don't think we've ever included either of those skis in the mid 80 discussion before.
I think they've snuck into here.
They've snuck into here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for this comparison, we are going in the classic slarvy to carvy progression, which is one of my favorite ways to organize this wall. And maybe you've been watching these and you're wondering, how is that different than directional to non-directional, or did we go less directional to more directional?
Less to more.
No, we went more because we started with Sakana and then ended with scope.
You're right.
So you might be wondering, how is this not just the opposite of that? And in that one, we were really taking shape into consideration a lot. And I would say the conversation in this comparison will end up including shape a lot, but I only thought about performance in the actual progression of skis.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference in construction with this grouping of skis, and lots of different materials and stuff like that. So
and probably not surprising that as we go from slarvy to carvy, generally there's more metal down there. So we'll see definitely some kind of consistent trends throughout this. And if you're unfamiliar with the word slarvy, another way to think about this would just be kind of more maneuverable to more carving focused. There's probably a number of different ways you could describe it. But
yeah, and certainly when you look at the tails, it doesn't show up on your camera, but a lot more twin tips on your side and a lot more square tails on this side.
Yeah. So I think that's it. You ready to get started, Bob?
Sure.
So first ski up here, excuse me, I'll give you that one, is the Elan Playmaker 91. Back again for another season. They just kind of like tweaked the top sheet material for 2025, which really doesn't change the way that the ski feels at all. And I really like this ski. Had a blast when they kind of first introduced it to us. It is very, very playful. It's very maneuverable. It kind of reminds me of like the conversations that we were having about scope. The Liberty Scope 94. I think Playmaker 91 and Scope 94 are actually pretty similar skis. I do think you get like a touch more responsiveness out of Playmaker 91. Tube light wood core, and then we get those Elan carbon rods. In the Playmaker skis, the carbon rods are much shorter than they are in Ripstick, so they're really just two of them kind of focused right underfoot, and that's about it. And with that build, you get a very, very lightweight ski. This is the 180 centimeter length, and we are just under 1,600 grams at 1,580. So super, super lightweight, and quite soft too. You know, that's very similar to what we saw with those Liberty scopes. And that is contributing hugely to their maneuverability, their quickness, their agility. And the other thing that is contributing quite a bit to that is their rocker profile, which Elan refers to as surf rocker. And if you're gonna name your rocker profile surf rocker, you can expect to be over here on the slarvy side of the wall, because I would say surfy and slarvy, those two words are basically interchangeable.
Yeah, drifty sideways, slashy stuff. Like that's all right in that ski's wheelhouse for sure.
Totally. So a lot of tip rocker. You know, we're 91 underfoot here, so for a ski that's 91 underfoot, like that is a lot of rocker. And then you see it in the tail as well. So there really is like a lot of tail rocker, probably among the most on this wall I would have to say, and we'll see if anything rivals it as we go through. Maybe QST 92. Maybe Optic 88,
yeah.
but still, I don't know. There's not like a crazy amount of early taper, which I think is really nice. Like I think if this ski had really abrupt early taper, it would almost feel like too maneuverable, kind of too loose. And I think they did a good job like building in all that playfulness and maneuverability and quickness and ease of use. Super creative ski when it comes to how you can ski it and the things that you can do. But there's like a little bit of trustworthiness here as well. Like,
yeah.
I think it's probably a little bit weight dependent, but I feel like I get a good amount of feedback from right underfoot in the Playmaker 91. So yeah, super fun for me. And I think a really fun one to start with because it is just, it's incredibly agile.
Yeah, and I've had success on that thing, like whereas some other skis in that weight or flex range haven't worked out as well.
No, I think that, yeah, it's like testament to Elan.
Yeah.
It's got it's got a little bit of strength to it.
Yep. I had a great time in the bumps and kind of, you know, just being real quick in the trees, and
yeah.
So it's super fun.
Yeah, really, really good in the bumps, really good in the trees, fantastic in the park. You know, so if you're kind of looking in this range and you're a park skier, these are really, really good. And we'll see a number that are really good too as we go through, and there are going to be some differences among them. I would say this is best for a park skier who's not going huge.
Right.
You know, you're kind of more of a jibby technical skier rather than just like launching yourself through the air. Because you will find a limit to landing stability, I suppose, in Playmaker 91.
Yeah, and that makes sense given that weight and the flex.
Yeah, it happened to me more in the 101 than the 91. Mm-hmm. Like landing a little bit back seat or just a little bit off balance in any direction.
Yeah.
And the ski just kind of like keeps bending and you're like, ah! But,
right.
You know, you could argue that like if it didn't do that, you might hurt yourself, so.
Yeah, easy to get around for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we started with it on the slarvy to carvy wall, that's for sure.
This is Armada ARV 88. We had some nice conversations with about the ARV 94 in the mid-90s conversation, and kind of brought this one up as well as being the more park-focused of the ARV series of skis. And really, I would say kind of an inspiration for them moving all of their skis to poplar. I think that this one had the poplar before the other ones did.
Yep.
And that was just kind of a move to make this thing a little bit more sophisticated in a park setting and just smoother overall. So it makes sense that the 94 and the 100 and move to that poplar wood core for this year. Pretty much all thanks to this ski here. And it just has that extra level of confidence.
Yeah.
But we also get ash core underfoot, so nice sturdy underfoot stability there, and wedge wall technology. So really kind of incorporating the sidewall into the core of the ski adds durability and cohesion to the mix. 1,677 grams, nice and light. Nice even flex too. I think that's pretty consistent now through all of the ARV series of skis, and more so than the others. This one has just a lot of camber underfoot. So I think a little bit more traditional than some others here, but really nice level of positive camber there. So you're getting that energy built into the ski. You can speak more to it than I can, but on takeoffs, that really helps kind of pop off of the jump and out of the lip really,
it's really
well.
nice to have. It's almost like a subconscious thing. You don't realize that it's happening until you get on a ski that doesn't do that.
Right.
Then you're like, oh.
What happened?
I want my ARVs back.
Yeah. And then a little bit more traditional in terms of rocker as well. So if you don't decamber it, the ski really, the rocker really starts up here and then has more of that traditional twin tip shape to it. And that is true for the tail as well. So not a whole lot of free ride oriented rocker in this ski. It's definitely has more of that park inspiration to it. And then kind of that modern early taper shape that we'll see in Revolt as well. And the new Fischer as well. I was looking before we started here and I was like, oh, this Fischer's really got kind of that new look as well. But other than that taper, really the thing that stands out is the amount of camber here in this ARV 88, and that's just delivering a different level of pop. I think that that's really fun to use in an on-trail format as well. Like,
Yep.
We kind of talked about that a bunch too, is, you know, for park skiers that are spending some time on trail or in the bumps or in the trees, having that energy is super fun.
Yeah, and it's always impressed me that that ski can handle all mountain skiing as well as it can.
Yeah.
I was spying on you as you held the base to me, but what are your side cut dimensions there?
You're going to make me read this tiny
It's
print.
on the tail too, on the top sheet if you prefer.
No, I got it. 176, 120, 88, 114 with a 16.5 meter.
Yeah, 120, 88, 114.
Yep.
And this one I thought it would be fun to compare is 122, 91, 116.
Yeah.
So the same difference, a 6 millimeter difference between tip and tail dimensions. And I feel like that's a nice place to be for a ski that's going to work in the park and like excel in the park, but also be pretty darn good around the rest of the mountain too.
Yeah.
And like, for whatever reason, it seems like every single time we get on this ski to film it or test it or whatever, it snows like 8 inches. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I guess it's nice to know that the ARV 88 can like ski some steeper terrain with
Yeah.
soft snow. And I don't think that's what it does best. You know, I think like tons of skis through the middle section here far surpass this or anything really over here in the twin tip world for like directional soft snow performance, but at least it can do it.
Right.
And we've done it, like I skied it, not this past season, but the year before on that like incredible soft snow sunny day.
Yep.
And had a blast. And then we've got footage of like Eli Moskowitz in our ski test kind of hopping down waterfall and like does just fine.
Yeah, I think as long as the weight is amenable and the flex is there, then you're going to get at least some soft snow performance.
Yeah. It also helps if you have experience on more of a center mounted ski.
Yeah.
Because really with all of these first skis over here, even if you're going with a slightly more traditional mount point, you're going to be more centered than really anything once we get to ZX.
Right.
From there on, like pretty much anything over here, Playmaker, I suppose, might have Bent has a bigger range, but a decent range here, but even if you go all the way like 3 back there, you're still kind of going to be a little bit more centered.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that they can serve as all mountain skis as well. And this one, this Bent 90, I think is maybe like the best example of the all mountain twin tip world. Like I like skiing this ski in the park, but I really like skiing it outside of the park as well. Are we just not going to get side cut dimensions anywhere?
Maybe on your sticker.
Yeah, there we
the
are.
Tiny print.
So I just thought this was like a really telling thing. 119, 90, 109 here in this Bent 90. So, you know, we see that that's a 10 millimeter difference between tip and tail dimensions.
Yeah.
And that to me is just like, it's representative of its performance as a truly like directional all mountain ski. And then these bents just have like such a wild range of mount points. So +6 is like pretty darn close to true center, but then you can go all the way back to -4 and like really make a directional ski. So anyway, I just thought that was
Yeah, I mean, it's
interesting to point out.
Yeah, I've always been kind of on their factory line, which works great for lots of different things.
I think most people are going to be great right there on the
Yeah.
factory line. But I like all the indications that this is a little bit more of an all-mountain ski. Really simple construction in these skis, just a poplar wood core. The 90 doesn't change for 2025, while the 100 does. It'll be really interesting to see if we get those changes for 2026.
26, yeah.
Which feels weird to say out loud. But yeah, just super simple construction. Poplar wood core. We do get Horizon Tech in the tips and tails. This is the 175. I didn't know if I had a 184. 1,630 grams, so we're still looking at skis that are very, very lightweight. This, I think, might surprise some people in the sense that it's like, it's got some supportiveness to the flex pattern. I think especially in the tail, and we can look at that difference between tip and tail. It is a directional ski. You can mount it more centered like we talked about and ski it in the park, and I've done that and I like it a lot, but there is a pretty big difference in tip and tail rocker. So that is all the tip rocker, quite a lot, probably just as much as we saw from Playmaker. And then the tail is like, almost doesn't have rocker. It like kind of does if you decamber it.
Yeah, but it's really just the tail splay.
It's pretty much just the twin tip, and it's not even like that much splay for a twin tip. So you definitely get like more support from behind you. I'd say it finishes a turn pretty darn well. I've always like honestly been pretty impressed by how well this ski carves, and I know there are people out there that don't think it carves well, and I don't know what to tell you because I have fun doing that. It doesn't have like the most torsional stiffness, so maybe if you're Bob's weight, you're just gonna get it to twist more than I do.
Yeah, I struggle in a carve turn on that thing.
Yeah, that's
on anything firmer than soft corduroy.
That's fair. It works well for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it's a fun ski. It can handle a groomer. It's got some stability to it. I would say it has a little bit more stability than the first two skis that we looked at. Maybe comparable to ARV 88, just in like kind of longitudinal speed if you let it run and stuff like that. It is tremendous in the bumps. It's really good in the trees on like a low snow tree day. So that's something that we get a lot of here in Vermont, and a Bent 90 just eats it right up. And then you can go in the park too. So it has become a really popular ski. I mean, the 100 has two, and a big reason for that, in my opinion, is just their ability to do so many different things. And not just for a single type of skier, for many different types of skiers. So like you can just put a pure park rat 15-year-old park kid on this ski and he's gonna have a blast, and then like you could own it, you do own it.
I do own it.
And then you'll have fun.
Yeah,
so.
for me, for what it lacks in carving power and edge grip, it more than makes up for that in bumps and trees.
Yeah.
Like it's just a far superior mogul and tree ski for me than pretty much anything here.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
I don't have to try.
What about like ZX92?
Not quite as flowy.
It is very flowy.
Yeah.
You got to give some credit to Horizon Tech, don't you think?
Yeah, especially kind of when you're maneuvering and shifting through those shorter turns and those tighter areas. And like it's not like it's a technical ski, but you can sure move through technical zones with ease.
Totally.
Like it's just so easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah, really fun.
Yeah, I think it's moving into more of a park-specific focus here.
Really,
Maybe
with the next two.
Yeah, or three of the next four.
Yeah, 3 of the next 4 would be pretty accurate.
This is a Volkl Revolt 90. This is carryover construction from years past. We do get a new graphic for this year. And I believe this is the only symmetrical ski here.
I think technically it is. We're going to get real close
with
in a couple others,
yeah,
but
and
not
then with
quite.
the Nightstick. But this one is definitely symmetrical in both measurements and in rocker profile. So we do get the benefits of Volkl's multi-layer wood core here. They do use it in a little bit of a different format with the Revolt 90, kind of stepping down from a full sidewall to half and then to all cap. So there's a progression between full cap, half cap, and full sidewall here, which just adds to that balance point of the ski, just making it supremely balanced from tip to tail and really easy to use in a competitive park format and slope style competitions. So it's nice to see like Volkl make a ski like the Mantra 88 and then the Revolt 90 that can both be on the same wall and just offering very different things to different skiers. And I mean, we can say that about some other skis here with, Bent to Maverick or
Nice K2 progression.
Yeah, K2 as well. Yeah, 3 K2s that kind of operate on 3 different planes, but still on the same wall. So pretty interesting for sure. But yeah, with that central mount point and with the symmetrical rocker and camber, it just makes this thing super balanced. 1888 grams. So a little bit of heft here, a little bit more solid than some of the other skis we've seen. But, you know, I always kind of like showing this and saying, well, I don't have to show the tail rocker.
Because it's the same.
Because it's the same.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting how they are able to do that. Just making switch riding, takeoffs, and landings that much easier and more effective, especially from a competitive standpoint. And then a nice progressive flex as well. You know, you definitely feel the evenness and smoothness of that flex more than some of these other skis that just have a little bit more give.
Do you think it's stiffer than Bent 90?
Probably. Here, I'll trade you. I want to see.
Bent 90 is like... No, I think Bent 90 is a little stiffer, but only in the tail.
Yeah.
Like this is stiffer overall and consistent. This is soft up in the shovel and stiff in the tail.
Yeah. And I think that consistency makes sense from that slope style and that competition standpoint.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like I saw that ski. Kind of interesting because I think the purpose of the trip was mostly for like that Volkl down there.
Yeah.
But when it changed to its current version, but when it was still called the Kendo, and we were basically there to test that ski and a couple others, and they did a little like presentation and they had the Revolt 90, and at the end of the presentation, because no one had talked about it yet, I raised my hand and was like, "Are we just not going to talk about like this cool park ski over
Guess
here?"
not.
And then like at least somebody got excited and told me about it, and I was like, you guys basically made like that's the best park shape I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And now like I think like ARV 88 is, it's hard for me to not say that about that ski as well, but like the pure symmetry,
Right.
you have to at least give them credit for truly making a 100% symmetrical park ski.
And a pretty good difference in the camber. Like there's just not as much camber in this Revolt as there is in that ARV.
Yeah.
But this was certainly kind of at the forefront of more modern taper shaping here in the tips and tails. And I think that shows in your K2 and your Fischer coming up in terms of the twin tips. But not a whole lot of all mountain versatility or kind of general ski use here. This is a pretty specific
not really.
item.
It's kind of interesting because there's not like there's not a linear or like natural progression in Revolts for all mountain use.
Right.
Like even like the narrow, like the 86.
Yeah.
And like you could argue that that's actually a better all mountain ski, and then like the Revolt 96 is way better.
Yeah.
Because that ski starts to even give you like some soft snow performance and stuff like that. So yeah, if there's, you know, if we're going to talk about being fairly one-dimensional, I think this is a ski on this wall that is fairly one-dimensional, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No.
You know, it's accomplishing what it's designed for, and it doesn't need to accomplish more than that.
Right.
You could kind of say the same thing about this ski. This is the K2 Omen 90. So in the last comparison, in the mid-90 comparison, we talked about the Omen team. That's kind of a replacement for the Poacher. That would mean this Omen 90 is more of a replacement for the Sight. And I'm pretty excited about it. I do think this one is probably a little bit more park focused than the Omen team, but really they're almost just like two different widths of a very, very similar ski.
Right.
So you can kind of just take that and choose whichever speaks to you. Aspen veneer wood core in this ski, and then we do get some carbon stringers. It's that carbon boost braid that's kind of woven into their triaxial fiberglass application that K2 uses a lot. That construction is not like, it's not designed to be crazy powerful, but it does result in a like pretty robust ski. So this is the 179, and it's 1,950 grams, which is the heaviest ski we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's got some substance to it.
Yeah,
which the sight always had too. Like you pick up that sight and be like, "Well, this is a real ski."
And you feel it in the flex too.
Yeah.
You know, I would say this is the stiffest so far, stiffer than both the last two that we talked about, and that's kind of where we started seeing a stiffer ski. I do think it's maybe not like completely consistent tip to tail. The tip feels like a little stiffer than the tail to me, but very supportive, you know. And I think like for a park skier that's like really hard on their equipment, it's really, really nice to have this flex pattern, because it just like retains a little bit more strength, and that in turn that turns into kind of just like increased lifespan. Like sometimes a really soft flexing park ski, you just blow right through it.
Right.
Where this is going to give you a little bit more life. And then they've really tweaked their kind of finishing qualities to all their twin tips for 2025. So they all have this like textured top sheet that you can probably hear, and then they all have this kind of slight step down finish to the top sheet as it kind of integrates with the sidewall. And that is just creating an exceptionally durable ski overall. I would say that K2's twin tips have always been known for their durability, with the exception being the first generation Reckoner.
The Reckoners, yeah.
But they've kind of fixed that, and then now they're just like reclaiming that that award or that title as just like, we have incredibly durable twin tips. So if you're super hard on your equipment, I think this would be a really good one to consider. And then we are a little bit less symmetrical in this ski compared to that ARV, compared to the Revolt, but it's still pretty darn close. So good amount of tip rocker, more than the sight, that's for sure. That's one of the big changes to this ski compared to sight. And then just about the same length of tail rocker here. We are back to, I think it's again like a 6mm difference. So yeah, 119/90, 113 for your side cut dimensions. So we're not perfectly symmetrical, but really, really close, and close enough that I would say not really a good ski to consider if you're not going to be center mounting it and using it in the park. And I would also say that we are still pretty one-dimensional. To me, I think the first three skis we looked at are more versatile as all-mountain skis, especially than the Revolt 90, but I would also say more versatile than this K2 Omen 90.
Yeah, and like we were saying just before we started, this one struck my eye as being like a really nice, solid option. And we've talked about that with Poacher and Sight. And that's moving into Omen, both Team and 90 as well, where they feel like a real ski in your hand.
Yep, good value too.
Yep.
I don't remember exactly how much they are, but they're not expensive. If anything, like it would have been, we could have organized this wall by price, which I think would have been kind of interesting, because there's a range here. Like Playmaker is a more technology-fueled ski, and then you see it reflected in its price tag. It's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. Now we got a Prodigy 1 here from Faction, moving into a slightly more directional twin tip standpoint here. Once we get into your Nightstick there next, it goes a little bit back closer to symmetrical, but these are really fun in terms of mixing that all-mountain twin tip style with some park performance. So I think this is your park skier who wants an all-mountain ski versus your park skier who's spending most of their time in the park.
Yep, I agree.
So this certainly has those capabilities, but you really can't deny how well it works in an all-mountain standpoint. I mean, it's 88mm underfoot, and it's just really fun to have a twin tip that actually holds up to stronger skiing in that realm. A lot of it is due to the construction. This is a mix of poplar and ash in the wood core, and then we get a carbon rubber stomp pad underfoot. So it's like a 60 centimeter section in the middle here where there's carbon and rubber along the bottom. and that really helps with the impacts, both rails and just landing in general. Just having a little bit extra material there to really soften the blow.
Yep.
So just smoother feel overall underfoot. But definitely has kind of that real ski feel.
Yeah.
Nice snappy energy here.
And like full vertical sidewalls.
Yep, full
There's
sidewalls.
A lot of things about that just look like a real ski.
Yeah. And 1,874 grams, so that's kind of indicative of having that slightly denser ash wood in the core as well, just making it a little bit heftier and a little bit sturdier for more aggressive skiing. And you know, it's funny to think about like that 88 all mountain twin. You know, I feel like the skis like this used to be more popular, you know, and then it kind of went wider, and then they stopped making as kind of robust skis in that range, and I think it's nice that they seem to be coming back in my mind.
There's also just like more fun directional all mountain skis these days. So like you don't need to just go buy as we'll see in like a huge range of skis here.
Yeah.
Like you can get a lot of fun factor out of a directional ski.
Yeah.
Where I feel like it used to just kind of be like, if you wanted a playful ski, you would go get a twin tip.
You had to get a twin tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, you get a Ripstick 88.
Right.
So I wonder if that's like part of the reason why you just don't see quite as many like narrower, fun, versatile twin tips.
Yeah. And I miss them. Like that was my first introduction to twin tips. It was like skis like this.
Well, and I thought like when Elan kind of came out with the Playmakers,
yeah,
and then like told us about this one, I was like, oh, that's sweet. Like you're gonna
right.
make like a real cool twin tip that's 91 underfoot.
Right.
Where most of them, like you were saying, are like 96 or 98 plus. And like that was kind of the spot that everyone shopped in for a long time.
And you had to go that width to get longer ones too, whereas your Playmaker and this one specifically,
188.
Yeah, they come longer.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yep.
That's like my ski. Did you know that?
I knew you were gonna ski it. Looking forward to it, I bet.
I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, because I've like skied them a good amount, but I've never owned a Prodigy. I don't think I've ever owned a faction, period.
Right.
So I'm really excited to. I mean, you got to put a pivot on it, I think, just to like keep the twin tip park vibe.
Yeah.
So we'll put a pivot on it, and I'll ski it a bunch. I think I'm gonna do like some early season on snow assessments. So look out for that.
Keep in mind.
In like 2 months.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, Killington opens soon.
But also that more directional rocker profile as well, similar to your Atomic, where we're seeing more rocker in the tip.
Yeah.
And a little bit shorter of a rocker profile in the tail, although this is a little bit more rocker than the Atomic, with a little bit different of a flex pattern. But nice positive camber underfoot. I think you're going to like that. And then,
yeah, I'm going to have a blast.
Jeff, you have a new school, progressive, or classic mount point option.
Can we further assess what that means?
Yes.
Yeah, so new school is still like, I would say 3 centimeters back from true center.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to go.
You're going new school?
New school.
They don't have new wave mount
No.
point on these things yet?
Nope. Yeah, and I've come to learn that like I shouldn't go further forward than the furthest forward recommended mark.
Yeah.
I used to be all about going further forward and being like, no, I'm going to find my own mount point.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, if faction doesn't think that I should go further forward, I probably won't. But
On their twin tips.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it makes sense on a ski like this because like what you just looked at, like the tip, it is asymmetrical.
Right.
And then if you went center, you'd be forward of the camber or forward of the center of camber, which is always a really weird feeling.
But that looks like a super useful ski, like for around here.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Looks
I mean, that's
great.
why I'm like really excited to kind of bring it out early season, is because it'll do all the early season things. Like a lot of time early season stow, you end up getting like kind of bump runs.
Right.
Like every trail is a bump run because there's only like 2 or 3 trails.
Yeah, it's
and
the
then
best.
there's like 6,000 people trying to ski them and they just get so chewed up. So it's like, moguls, side hits, and rails.
Right.
Like that's early season at Stowe, and that's kind of like perfect for that ski. Next up is a ski that I am quite excited about. This is the new Nightstick 90 from Fischer. I really appreciate kind of the attention that they're giving to twin tips. And I think other Fischer skiers feel the same way. And this 90 kind of takes the 97 and brings it way more into a pure park focus. So not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we have been talking about this stuff a lot. This one is 117, 90, 115. And it does have a true dead center mount point, and the furthest back is essentially -4 from true center. So that's pretty interesting. The furthest forward line on a Prodigy is -3
Yep.
from center. The furthest back recommended on a Nightstick 90 is -4. So like that is just like a great example that this is more focused to be a park ski. And it's quite a cool park ski too, in my opinion. They really did some cool stuff with the 97 or the Nightstick development in general. It is just a poplar wood core, which like there's nothing crazy there, but then they put this Titanal reinforcement underfoot. So there's a layer of metal kind of like right along the base, or like just under the core, above the base, I suppose. And that is not only providing more durability for rails, it's also just kind of like increasing the ski's performance overall. And I think these have such a cool mix of feeling playful and energetic and poppy, but also substantial.
Yep.
And I think that's pretty much exactly how that Nightstick 97 feels as well. And this just takes it to like pure park performance. So it's not a crazy stiff flex pattern. You know, you want like some suppleness to the tips and tails on a ski like this that's supposed to be at least somewhat playful. But it's definitely pretty darn stiff underfoot.
We timed out on the scale.
I know, it's 1700, yeah, 1775 for weight, and this is the 177 centimeter length. So it's not like the heaviest ski in the world either, and that is cool to me. Like, you're gonna get that quickness and the playfulness, but then you get a really strong, stable feeling ski underfoot. And this ski really, I mean, it just screams park ski to me, like tons of camber.
Yep.
It's kind of similar to that ARV, and just like the amount of camber that it has underfoot, and that just gives you such a springy, poppy, energetic, playful ski. And then it's you know, in a lot of ways, it's actually very similar to that ARV in shape. Like, there's not a ton of rocker by length, but certainly enough, and then paired with like a little bit of taper. And then really, the tail is like basically exactly the same. There might be slightly less rocker in the tail, but I think it's pretty much about the same, and then that same kind of tapered finish to it. So I think it's really cool. You know, Fischer kind of went away from making anything that was a twin tip for a couple years, and now they're back with the 90, 97, and 104, and I think they're really good skis. I wonder if it's going to be one of those things that it takes like a year or two to really start to see them. Because I didn't see many Nightstick 97s last year, and you could get it last year. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get on that, but if it skis anything like the 97...
It's just a narrow 97 that's more symmetrical. Yeah, which, like, I don't know that you would like it as much as the 97 because it's more symmetrical.
Right.
And then, like, you know, if you've never been on a symmetrical ski, basically what happens is it just feels like there's a lot behind you. And it's not like from length, it's just like the width of your tail behind you. It gives it like a weird feel.
Yeah.
So.
It's fun when you're trying to make like round, like up the hill turns.
And it's fun when you're skiing backwards.
Yeah.
But it's like as soon as you want to release the tail edge, then it can feel a little weird if you're not used to it.
Yeah, a little bit of a hindrance and bumps and trees and all mountain stuff.
Yep. But the 97 handles that stuff pretty well. And now we're kind of moving out of the twin tip world, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, more of a move into a directional all-mountain ski here with the Kastle ZX92. This is a carryover model for this year, so same construction, same graphics, and kind of one of my personal favorites on this wall in terms of mixing soft snow and on-trail capabilities. Like, I'd put a vote in for this as being one of the best floaters on the wall, mainly because it's inspired by a wider ski. So the Kastle ZX108 was really the first in this ZX series, and they've pared it down from there into the 100 and this 92, and then there's a wider one at 115 as well. But the 92 really takes all of the same profiling and shaping and construction characteristics, just shrinks it right down into a different footprint. So it makes sense that this ski, because it's inspired by that, is one of the better floaters and soft snow skis of this group.
I don't really want to go through because it would take too long, but it might have the widest tip dimensions.
Possible. Maybe this Dynastar with that weird tip shape will get you, but
I know.
it's close.
And that's like, I definitely don't disagree with you when you're saying it's like the best floater up here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason why.
Just under 1,700 grams here, 1687 here, and the 176, I believe, with a 16.5 meter turn radius. Most of that arc really comes from below this shape here. So we get a lot of taper in this ski. That is a direct descendant from that ZX108, which is why this is kind of on that side of the wall as being more slarvy, is because of this right here. So lighter weight with that hollow tech, and then more dramatic in the taper shape, and I'll show you the rocker profile in a second. But because the widest part is brought well down, this whole shovel is meant to be out of the snow. And then it's, you know, more on the flexible side as well, so that's going to keep it out. And then nice long tip rocker here. I'll show you too, Jeff, so you're very impressed.
That's got to be the most tip rocker. Where was I when we were saying what ski has the most tip rocker? Was it Playmaker?
Probably, or the Atomic. But I'd say that this certainly has more splay.
I think Playmaker still takes it for length.
For length?
Yep.
That's fine. You can have it.
Sweet.
The bigger difference is when we look at the tail.
Wait, while we're at it, what's your tip dimension?
I don't know. I don't have it.
Perfect. Mine's 122.
Okay.
I'll put it on the screen.
It gets different when we get to the tail. So shorter rocker, less splay, and a little bit less taper. I mean, there is some early taper in the tail here, but it definitely does not fall into the same category as the other skis that we've been talking about. And then from a construction standpoint, kind of skipped over that, but it's a blend of poplar and beech in the wood core here, kind of thicker stringers. When we get to the new Kastle MX88, we kind of go a different direction with the construction and how they go about using their wood stringers. This is a little bit more macro block oriented and does end up resulting in a relatively lower price point than the top shelf MX88. But I really, really enjoy the ZX series of skis, mainly because of the energy you get out of the tail paired with the mobility of the shovel. So you were asking about best tree ski. Certainly this is right up there. It is so easy to get that tip around. And then just it's a preference difference from the tail. Do you want a tail like a ZX92 that's more directional, that's going to give you a little bit better feedback, or do you want a more flowy feel like in the bent 90 there? Yeah. So it's a stylistic difference and a preference more than does one do better than the other. Yep. But this thing is just an absolute blast. I really enjoy just the pep out of the tail from all of the ZX skis. Clearly, when you go narrower to 92 versus the 100 or something like that, you are getting a little bit more torsional stiffness and more rebound as a result. But really fun option in getting into the first of the more directional skis on this wall. Yeah, you've always looked great skiing the ZX92. Yeah, they just fit my style. That and the 100 are just like, that's what I like to do. Yeah, I think like the only footage we have is me
I probably don't make it look as good. No, I don't know. You know, it just like loves those short, quick turns on the side of the trail. And, like that's what it's all about. And like you were talking about the feedback out of the tail. Sometimes like I'm like not ready for it because it is highly responsive, and I'm a little bit more in tune with these driftier skis that just let me go sideways for a while. So here, I'll give you this one.
Okay.
We're not going to be able to weigh this Sender Soul 92 very well with this relatively heavy look binding on it. But brand new ski here from Rossignol. I think there's been like some confusion about Rossignol for 2025. The Sender 94 exists somewhere. I have quadruple checked at this point, and it is nowhere on our order form. So we did not buy it because we couldn't.
Doesn't have a write-in box.
Yeah, because then I would just start writing in all sorts of things I want to exist. So yeah, and I have seen it pop up, and people were asking about it in the mid-90s video. But from our perspective, we're getting Sender Soul 92 and 102, and then Sender Free 110 and 118, and that kind of completes the Sender line now. So I spent a lot of time on the Sender Soul 102. I spent less time on the Sender Soul 92, but certainly enough to kind of appreciate it and understand it. And they're basically just kind of making like, they want skis to be super fun and maneuverable. That's kind of the path that they're going with Sender Soul 92 and 102. The reason that they have the word soul in their name is they're kind of trying to capture some of that just ease of use and maneuverability that was found in that Soul 7 that's been gone for 4 years now. But the reason why this ski is reasonably far on the right side of the wall here is it's like kind of stiff. There's like some stability to it that you don't find on most of the skis that we've talked about so far, which is interesting because it's just a Polonia wood core and then their air tip. So nothing on paper about the construction like would suggest that it's super, super stable or stiff, but it kind of is. So that's at least why it's to the right of the ZX, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Rossignol does a lot with core thickness, and we'll talk about that when we get to Arcade 88 at the end of the wall, where, yeah, you can have a lightweight Polonia wood core, but when you
look how thick it is under the heel.
Make it a big block of it, then it really adds to it.
Yep.
So we're always kind of surprised at how these Polonia wood core skis just are incredibly responsive.
Yeah. And then this is a cool shape. It's actually like the rocker profile shape is pretty similar to that 102. Good amount of tip rocker up here, and like a very straight tip. It doesn't look like the old Soul 7 with like the crazy taper, but there is some taper there, and then quite a bit of camber underfoot. It's like a lot of pop, a lot of energy to it. And then like a good amount of tail rocker in these skis. Like starts way down there, maybe not like a ton of splay, but certainly a good amount by length, and then also kind of that straight tapered shape through the end there. So there's like, they almost ski, like it's a directional all mountain ski, but it almost skis more like a twin tip to me. And like I played around with it at Waterville Valley quite a bit this past season and had a blast just kind of like jibbing and flicking the ski all over the place. I think we skied that steeper trail too, and I thought it did quite well, making like shorter skidded turns on the side of the trail like we were talking about with ZX. And I do think they've like, I don't know, I do think they've got something going here with Sender Soul 92 and 102. I don't think you're gonna see a ton of these. I think you're going to see a lot of people with the 102, but I would encourage people to consider this ski if you are more of that playful skier. You know, like it's not the same width as a Sky 7, but if Sender Soul 102 is kind of capturing original Soul 7, this ski is kind of capturing original Sky 7.
Yeah, and it's also kind of a remake of the Black Ops 92
Yeah.
in terms of construction and overall shape. We do get a longer length and more tail rocker.
And like a little bit more tech.
Yeah.
Air
So I
tip.
was always like precluded from this ski, mainly because of length.
Right.
But now they're making that longer length, I think a 184. So that's bringing more skiers into the mix.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool ski. And it's especially cool when you consider the arcade down there.
Yeah.
Because this is a really nice complement to that ski. That arcade is burly and powerful and like the real deal when it comes to laying over carves. This is much more playful, kind of much more, I don't know, willing.
Yeah, I mean, like the ZX92, it's a narrower version of a freeride ski, so you're getting the benefits of kind of a freeride DNA, but with...
I mean, these even have influence from like Sender Free 110.
Yeah.
So, like, they're in the same line.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that that's going to be a useful ski for a lot of people this year, for sure.
I do too, yeah.
Oh, you skipped one. Or did you just not mean to do that?
I did not mean to do that.
Get it out of the way. Speaking of useful skis, I would say this K2 Mindbender 90C is at the top of the list of like most useful ski on the market, like over the past few years.
It's really good, yeah.
Like, there's just something about this ski that screams like this is what everyone could use.
Yep.
You know, it's like they take a mix of all attributes of a lot of skis and mush them up, and then you're getting something like this. And I think that the QST 92 will also fall in that category. They're just a little bit different. The Mindbender here relies a little bit more on directional performance, while the Salomon is a little bit more soft snow oriented. So I think skiers that are spending more of their time on trail in search of kind of a clean medium radius carved turn, but also want the adventure built in for bumps and trees and off-trail stuff, that's where this Mindbender is just a lot of fun. Aspenwood core, carbon spectral braid. So by having a tighter cross hatch of carbon in the tip, they are increasing the torsional stiffness. And then by making it more directional in the tail, it just makes it a little stiffer from like a longitudinal flex standpoint, while allowing it to be more twisty. And that's really K2's idea for making their Mindbender directional skis, and we just see it with metal when it comes to the TI version as opposed to carbon with this. So you're getting a lighter weight, a more kind of gentle flex, especially in the shovel with this 90C. 1,820 grams just about on the scale, and you know, certainly more of an all-mountain shape and profile. K2's they do a lot with longer rocker, and this has been the way since Pinnacle skis back in the day, where it's just a long rocker profile, but nothing too crazy, especially in the narrower versions when it comes to splay. And then I would call this width appropriate taper, certainly with the intention of mixing firm and soft snow capabilities. And then tail's pretty directional, slightly longer but not high rocker in the tail, and then pretty standard taper. So again, they're not doing anything crazy on this ski at all. They're really bringing it right down the middle and making more skiers happy, just contributing to overall success. Shorter turn radius too, 15.3 here in the 178. Like this Dynastar here at 15, the Arcade at 15. I think those are kind of on the shorter side, maybe the Declivity as well.
16.4 on your ZX.
Yep. But a little bit shorter in this K2, making those turns that much easier. So I think there's a big application here for intermediate and advanced skiers who are really kind of caught in the middle. They're like, I want something that does great on trail. I want it to be able to go off trail and do bumps, and I don't want to work too hard for it. And I think that that's where this ski really shines, is in the mid zone.
Yeah,
but
and it, like, I skied it. There's footage of me skiing it this past season, I think, and it, like, I don't remember the previous time I had skied it. It had been at least a year probably. it carves better than I remembered.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. And I think a lot of people, now that they have the 96 and the 106C, there's a little bit more, they're giving a little bit more attention to the carbon Mindbenders. But I think for a long time, people just overlooked that ski, thinking that it was just a beginner intermediate kind of meh, whatever. Right. And it's a good ski. Yeah. And like our rep would always say that. And even I, like admittedly for a long time was like, meh, Mindbender 90C.
Yeah.
I don't need that, but it's pretty fun.
Also, like one of the skis that we've kind of talked about lately is being like a high quality intermediate ski, where intermediate skiers kind of get the shaft sometimes with lower quality stuff. It's nice when they put in the same sophisticated engineering that they put in kind of the advanced and expert realm, but into something that's just better suited for someone who's progressing and looking for something to help them out, rather than maybe something over here that's too heavy and just too rough for kind of learning and advancing.
Yeah, and you get that like pretty high performance ceiling.
Yep.
You can get it and just keep growing with it, and you're not going to like grow out of it anytime soon. And I would say that you could say the same thing about this ski, Bob. This is the Salomon QST 92. I think like this is a really interesting ski, and I'm going to give Salomon a lot of credit here because we are moving further and further to the right on this wall, which means we're getting better and better carving performance. But this ski is really just as maneuverable and just as agile as pretty much every single thing that we've looked at so far. It is different because a lot of those skis are softer and like easier to manipulate.
Yeah.
But QST 92 is very quick and very capable. So I just think I think Salomon deserves a lot of credit for this ski and really for the QST line in general, is because their shapes are so incredibly playful, but then somehow they build in like a decent amount of edge grip and stability too.
Yeah, like everything that I just said about the K2 in terms of mushing it all together, like these do that. I like them more. Like they feel better on my feet in terms of the energy and the stability that you get.
I mean, it's pretty cool. Like the way that they combine the like considerable amount of rocker with this like double sidewall situation underfoot, and it's like a lot of time I don't like when a ski has like sort of dualities in its design, but they pull it off here. Like sometimes it can just feel like the ski doesn't even know what it wants to be. Like, does it want to be stiff underfoot? Does it want to be maneuverable? Like, what am I even doing here? But it all kind of meshes in this QST 92.
Yep.
Poplar wood core. There's CFX material, so that blend of carbon and flax. We get that double sidewall underfoot as well. 1,850 grams in this 167 centimeter length. And they're like reasonably stiff. I'm the first one to flex this one.
Yeah, you get that fresh epoxy in there.
It sounds really good.
Yeah.
Some skis, when you flex them for the first time, like a couple of the snaps and pops are like concerningly loud.
Yeah, unnerving, sure.
Yeah, this one felt really consistent. So I feel like if you looked at this ski, if you looked at its shape and kind of like read the things about it, or like read the manufacturer description of it, you would probably think it was going to be softer. And there is like a nice amount of supportive flex to it.
Yep.
But you know, that's all. Did I say the weight?
18
Yeah,
something.
I did. Yeah. That is all combined with this just crazy maneuverable shape here. We gotta do tip rocker awards.
Are you decambering them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tie. We'll say tie. So it has a ton of rocker. It's got a lot of taper too. So probably like the most abrupt early taper shape that we're gonna see really anywhere on this wall. And that is true in the tail as well. So with the rocker profile, with that taper shape, this one also has a 15-meter turn radius. It is incredibly quick. I mean, the effective edge is like pretty darn short when you're skiing a flat edge angle, and even like tipping it up on edge, you're not engaging all of that tip. So it's it's always going to sort of ski a little bit short, but then that's like supported by the fact that it is pretty robust underfoot and actually like stiffer and more torsionally stiff than a lot of people would expect. So I think the QST92 is an awesome all-mountain ski. I think like a lot of people that kind of shop in your world over there, Bob, would maybe be surprised and have a really, really good time on a QST92 because you have to like push it pretty darn hard to get it outside of its comfort zone. And then in moguls and trees and stuff like that,
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
It's just it's a different feel too, even than within the same company. You got a ski like this Stance here with 2 sheets of metal, and like it's the same weight just about.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
they're very different skis in terms of how they feel overall, and both are good for their own purposes. But it's hard to think of a ski that does more things well than a QST92.
I agree 100%.
Like it's just I can't.
There are lots of skis that if you're going to drill it down to single metrics,
Yeah.
that outperform this.
Sure.
In fact, it's one of those skis that like it's not the best in any single category. It's the sum of all its parts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it just has wonderful energy to it, and is just extremely like, you know, from the first turn, it's super innate and natural, and you just you feel connected to it right away.
Yep, I agree. Excited to see this one get a little refresh, Bob.
Yeah, this is Armada Declivity 88C, and if you've heard me talk about the 88C up until this point, you'd know that I was really impressed with it.
Yep.
So myself and our Armada representative, we're similar sizes. He might be a little bit stronger than me overall. He's got real big arms.
He's probably definitely stronger.
Yeah.
I think he spends more time in a gym.
Yeah. But him and I always have really fun conversations about this Armada Declivity 88C and just how surprised that we are with the performance and how they kind of mix a lightweight feel with snappy energy out of it. Those things kind of change, and I don't think that overall it's for the worse. I think that for the skiing population, it's going to be better because him and I shouldn't, on paper, be on an 88C over a 92 Ti.
Yeah.
But on snow, we both kind of felt the same way, that we felt enormously supported by the Declivity 88C. What they've done, but that means that people that aren't our size, like yourself, for example, didn't have the same experience and didn't have the same success.
It was just stiff.
It was stiff, and it had the Karuba wood, it had a lot of carbon in it, and it ended up being really stiff. And I enjoyed that, but that's not who an 88C is made for.
Right.
This is made for those people. This is made more for you, for people your size, than people my size these days. So like all of Armada's other skis, they move from Karuba to poplar. They also reduce the amount of carbon in this ski, so it is a little bit more flexible than we've seen in the past. And for me, not as good, but for most people, much better. And I think they're really trying to hook into that crowd, that QST92 crowd, the Ripstick crowd, people that want kind of that nice, energetic, and eager performance out of the ski. That's where this new Declivity 88C comes in handy. 1,622 grams. I do want to put this Ripstick on just to get a little test, because we've always kind of had these two in the same thing, 1674, and this is a little bit longer. So like very similar weights in these two carbon-powered skis. And that really makes a lot of sense when you think about who is benefiting from these. And like we've seen in that other Armada, your ARV over there, Jeff, lots of positive camber underfoot. So if you're not having a ski that has a lot of other additives and stronger materials, then putting the camber in there really helps boost that ski's responsiveness and performance. And not a ton of rocker, very directional in nature, both tip and tail. So long effective edge, and the longer your edge is in the snow, the smoother the feel is going to be. So they've moved this Declivity 88C into something that was really kind of poppy and energetic, into something that's smoother and easier to turn. And I think K2, your K2 carbon there and this Ripstick are very similar in that regard, where they're using carbon, but they're making it not pingy or too demanding or stiff.
Yep.
So like that Core 87, that would have been on kind of the other side of the discussion of this now, whereas they used to be a lot more similar. But I'm really interested in spending more time on this and kind of seeing where you can take it and how it really differs from the older 88C. I know there's a lot of people that really liked it.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to see if this is kind of making that move into more universal appeal. But yeah, shorter turn radius on this as well. Not that short, actually, 17.2. So middle ground, I would say. But they've really softened that flex and just made it easier to turn overall. So I'm interested to see how this thing goes, because I think it's now where it's supposed to be, as opposed to the old one, which really reached a different level than I think it was intended to.
Yeah. Matt Ream, he's like Armada's engineer.
Yeah.
He was, or is, he's very, very excited about this ski, and we had a long talk about it out in Utah. And yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you said. I more just want to like support that by, yeah, it's like the performance is where it's supposed to be now.
Yeah.
And Armada kind of acknowledged that the previous ski didn't really make sense, and because of that, they didn't end up selling very many. And now I just think like, it's just like, even just that, like that is so much better than the previous ski.
Yeah.
Previous ski was so stiff, just like unnecessarily. Like this kind of feels like, I almost get like M-Pro 85 vibes from this ski. And I love that ski, just the way that you can bend it, but it still feels supportive. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I think they did a great job.
Yep.
Next ski is this Black Crow's Captis. So we're getting back into twin tips. At least say we got two more, including this one. So Black Crow's Captis back again with just a new top sheet graphic, like most Black Crows for 2025. Corvus changes and Octo is new, but a lot of returning skis just with new top sheet graphics. We referenced this ski quite a bit in the mid-90 comparison when talking about the Camex, and how I've always thought that the Camex was like a more drifty ski and Captis is a little bit stronger. And I think like this is a good visual representation of that, because it's a twin tip and because it's so far in that direction. And we had like, what, 5 skis since the last twin tip. So in some sense, it's not even like close.
Right.
But there's nothing crazy in its construction. That's pretty consistent to a lot of Black Crow's conversations. It's just a poplar wood core. The one thing that I'll point out for construction is just how gosh darn thick the core is, and that full vertical sidewall all the way through the ski. So
yeah, no step down like Camex. Like
nope.
It's more sidewall.
Yep. It's
overall.
Just complete vertical sidewall, literally wrapped all the way 360 degrees around the ski. Because even in that tip right there, there's vertical sidewall like facing you. Yeah. Which doesn't happen. You know, a lot of these skis just kind of come to essentially like a cap construction tip. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. 1,820 grams in this 178.4, so not ridiculously light, not super heavy either. And then pretty darn strong. You know, it's not like ridiculously stiff, but there is a very consistent flex pattern throughout the Captis, and a lot of torsional stiffness. So with that thick core, with the vertical sidewalls, you get a lot of torsional stiffness and a lot of edge grip. I was going to say for a twin tip, and then I stopped because it's really just a lot of edge grip.
For a ski.
For a ski, period. Yep. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously like a lot of things over there have more, but considering no metal and considering that it's a twin tip that you can be playful on, it's a lot Good amount of tip rocker in this ski. I think that's important with the flex pattern and the construction and everything. It needs that rocker to remain a little bit playful.
Yeah, there's not a ton of taper either, so
No,
it's like
exactly.
kind of a very, almost like a Justice shape in the tip. Where,
Yeah, mini Justice.
Yeah, where you're looking to get that instant edge contact.
Yeah, and then, you know, a decent amount of tail rocker back here. Definitely directional. There's far less tail rocker. 18-meter turn radius. I'm glad it's not longer. But yeah, Captis is awesome. Like, I don't think this ski is tremendously good as a park ski, but I think if you're like a directional all-mountain skier that wants a twin tip, you're gonna love it, which to me kind of describes you, Bob. Like moguls, short, quick turns on the side of the trail. Captis is fantastic for that. Or maybe you're like me, but you're smarter and you've stopped skiing park. You know, maybe you're in your late 30s and you used to ski park and you still want to be on a twin tip, something that you can ski backwards, but you're not too worried about actual terrain park performance. Then I think Captis would be great for that skier too. But yeah, just very strong, very responsive, a lot of feedback, a lot of grip, but still some playfulness. Like, I don't think it's not the easiest. If you were to ski a Playmaker 91 in the bumps and then a Captis, you would notice a difference.
Yep.
Captis requires a more engaged skier, a little bit better technique, a little bit more strength too. It's not just as slip and smear behind you.
No, and I've always said that, you know, having skied my Bent 90 for a while, that for skiers that like that style of ski but want the
more.
next level,
Yeah.
that's where Captis is.
Yeah, directional twin tip.
Yeah. And like you alluded to, like that thing is right up my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. Where like I prefer Camex because I get a little bit more looseness.
Yeah.
But I do really enjoy skiing the Captis. It's just when I ski it, all I end up doing is carve turns. Which is a silly place to be in some sense on a twin tip.
Yeah.
But there are skiers out there that want that.
Yep.
So I think it's a great ski. I don't think it's like surprising that you don't see a lot of them because it's not, you know, a lot of Black Crow skis come along with a reasonably sized price tag. And I think it can be hard to justify twin tip wood core and the price.
Yeah, but they do feel different. You know, there's
they do, 100%.
something to that shape for sure that makes it stand out.
Yeah.
Fischer Ranger 90 here, Jeff. This is a carryover construction model. We do get new graphics for this year, but same ski as it's been since its inception, utilizing the poplar and beech in the wood core.
No beech.
No beech in this one, sorry.
90, that's
96
okay. There's a lot of skis up here. It gets confusing.
I know.
Normally I'm the one that looks to you for construction clarification.
So you could say it's more similar to your Nightstick 90 in terms of the wood core, with the difference being in the metal laminate.
Correct.
Which in this ski is the Shape TI version. In the 90, it does extend quite a bit farther than what we see in the 96 and the 102. So with kind of a groove cut through the middle here in the tips and tails, that allows the ski to be a little bit more torsionally.
I've always thought it was interesting that they left the beech out, considering that the metal is longer.
And that it's more of a front side
Right.
option.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still a great ski. I'm not saying that that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Or that they should do it again and change it, but it's just interesting to me.
Yeah. No, I wonder what their decision-making process was.
Cost?
For sure. Too much beech and too many skis.
I guess it's cost, but
Yeah.
who knows?
But everything about this Ranger 90 basically screams that you're mixing soft snow and firm snow. So where that metal ends, we have a spoony shovel shape with a little bit softer of a flex profile and quite a bit of rocker to it. And then same thing with the tail. So you're getting edge grip all the way to the end. You had mentioned Dynastar, the old M Pro kind of comes to mind as that metal going to the tail. K2 does it as well, where they just stop and then allow the tail to be a little bit more peppy and floaty as opposed to just damp and solid. So really, Ranger 90 is about mixing these things. 1,740 grams. This is the 170, so a little bit shorter. But yeah, quite a bit of rocker here. Almost lines up with where the metal stops. And again, emphasizing flotation in the tip, grip and stability in the middle, I don't know, 2/3 or so.
Yeah.
And then a little bit more pep out of the tail. So some rocker back here, but certainly more in that directional realm. You know, comparing it to Captis or our next Optic 88, certainly more of that directional feel and more of a carving mentality. It just gets a little bit damper overall when we get to Optic, which is why that's kind of there. But yeah, because it's in the middle of the wall, I think that when we're looking at these skis that are basically covering our sign, those are the ones that are most kind of consistently mixing attributes.
Yeah.
And I think that that makes sense from a visual standpoint where you're on your side
Kinda
there.
like
And
started here-ish.
Yeah.
And is going to end basically similarly right behind you
Yeah.
with like Stance Declivity.
Yeah.
After that, well, I do give
Stormrider
Anomaly some credit of versatility,
Yeah.
but then you start losing it pretty quick.
Yeah. But I like this visual representation where kind of closer to the sign you get, then the more things are going to be mixed together.
Yep. I've always thought the Ranger 90 is a great Northern Vermont ski.
Right, because you're getting the mobility of the tip shape for when you're encountering soft snow and trees and bumps, and then you're getting that metal for most of the ski.
Yeah.
Which certainly comes in handy around here, both for edge grip and for dampness. Like, yeah, we get a lot of firm days where the snow is very inconsistent, and it's really nice to have a ski where the metal helps smooth out those inconsistencies.
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge thing.
You know, like all those people at Stowe that just ski lift line,
Yeah.
they should all just have a Ranger 90.
Yeah. I mean, like,
It would work really well. Like, like a ton of them ski like weird GS skis, and it just looks terrible. Looks like they're having a terrible time.
you think that they would be better at in like a mid-radius carve and a Ranger 90?
And the ski is more willing to skid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mid-radius to shorter skids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of like, oh no, I'm just skiing my 188 GS skis from the 70s.
Right. Because it's
Or
firm.
longer, from the 90s or early 2000s, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just always thought it would be great for particularly Stowe, but anywhere in Northern Vermont.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting ski. You know, kind of my hesitation with it is the inconsistency, whereas a heavier skier like myself, I kind of push through this tip a little bit. I'm much more comfortable in the middle of the ski, personally. But that's just me.
Next up, Bob, this is a ski that you're quite fond of. I know it just so happens to land on me, so I'll talk about it. But this is the new line Optic 88. The Optic series, it at first was the Blade Optic series, now it's just Optic, but the rest of it is back unchanged. But the 90 has turned into this 88, and
92.
I think sorry, was it 92? Oh, it was 92.
It was a 92.
Yep, thank you for the correction there. So yeah, the Optic 92 has turned into this Optic 88. I'm really happy about that. The 92 didn't share the same construction as the wider skis, so all the wider Optic skis or Blade Optic skis got this gas pedal metal overdrive, and the 92 didn't. So it was kind of like a little bit lost, sort of. And it actually had the same visual look, so it looked like it had metal, but it didn't. And I think that just like, I don't know, it kind of threw people off, and the performance just didn't necessarily match the wider skis. So Aspen veneer wood core in this ski, basically the same as we saw in that K2 that we talked about probably an hour ago. But instead of carbon stringers in this ski, we get metal. So we get that gas pedal metal overdrive, kind of like through the middle of the ski, through the forebody, and then into this grid that you probably can't really see, and then again through the middle of the ski and the tail. Kind of reminds me of old Rustler construction. And in my mind, I like to think about this ski as the line Rustler 8.
Yeah, and I'll bring up a Rustler 8 again when we talk about Anomaly, but
Well,
this is certainly more in that twin tip fashion.
I've been thinking about this a lot. And this, like, if we're going to also call that a Rustler 8, which I'm okay with that, they basically, like, sit on either sides of actual Rustler performance.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
I've used the term Brustler, like Brahma Rustler for that. But
yeah, but I do think it captures a similar kind of vibe. 1,925 grams. This one's pretty long. It's a 184. Not the heaviest ski. We're going to see far heavier skis when we get over there. And then we'll give it a flex too. You know, we do have a good amount of metal in here. We get all that vibration damping, but like is also true with a Rustler, it's not stiff. And then we also get like just a super, super fun, playful shape. So I think I'm done with the awards of tip rocker, but this one might have the most tip rocker on the wall. If anything, it's right there with those other skis that we've looked at with a lot. Very pointy. We've talked about that before with optics or blade optics, but they have like a considerable amount of taper up there. Same is true in the tail. So a lot of taper, a lot of rocker. And it does give them like kind of a unique feel with that much taper, is depending on your edge angle and depending on how you're skiing it, they can ski very short. I'm really curious to hear your take on this ski, Bob, because I know that it's going to be a little bit different than mine, or at least my experience on it. But what I really like about this ski is I can do all the fun twin tippy things that I like to do, but I can do them going really fast.
Yep.
So like the very first time I got on this ski, we were at Pico, and I just like, it's not like a steep trail by any means, but like kind of just like never slowed down and pointed it through some like soft, ungroomed snow sort of, and like did some 180s and bounced around and stuff. And it just gives you like a ton of confidence to be creative, but while going really fast. So like on skis over here, like on Playmaker 91, I feel just as creative, if not more creative, but it doesn't inspire you to ski fast like this ski does. So I just think that's really cool. Basically everything that makes it good at that kind of takes away its park performance. Like it is a twin tip. This is really the last ski that I would call a twin tip, but it's not really a park twin tip. You could ski it in the park, kind of like Captis, like you could do it. It's allowing for that potential, but I don't think that's its highlight.
No, and like you wouldn't say that about the other optics as well, 96 or 104.
No, I wouldn't, no. And this is a kind of a theme that you allude to a lot, but this is the narrowest in a freeride collection.
Yeah.
And it skis accordingly. You know, you can tell that it's got like, even at 88 underfoot, it's got some soft snow focus to its design and intention.
Yeah, but let me tell you something about the firm snow performance of this thing.
No,
like,
it can rip.
They are off the charts fun
Yeah.
on firm snow.
Doesn't rip you into a turn. That's like the one thing that I like don't love about it. But yeah, I totally understand.
But if you think about it this way, it's basically got that gas pedal metal overdrive that we've talked about in the 96, 104, 114, but they've squished it closer together.
Yeah,
so like
sure.
the density of the metal is a lot more centralized in this than in the 96. Let's just use that one. And then they also have a longer sidewall throughout. So the sidewall portion of the Optic 88 is longer than it is in the 96. They do not share that same characteristic. So you are getting considerably better initiation in this 88 than the 96 specifically. And I will also say that it's the next level of progression from my bent to Captis to Optic 88 in terms of twin tip performance. So if you're looking for that next level up in terms of stability and power in a twin tip, this is just another level up from Captis here.
Are we gonna play the if you could have 3 skis what 3 skis would you have game at the end?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
Because this was, I believe this
was
was
it's got to be near the top for me.
This was on your list,
Yeah,
right?
this
Which
is
I
one of
thought
those.
was like really telling because
Yeah.
like on paper I wouldn't always like peg you as a line skier,
Right.
and like I think that's really cool when a manufacturer like Line that's known for one thing can make a ski that becomes one of your favorites in a
Yeah.
collection of 22 or 28 skis.
Right.
So-
No, I was like 1,000% on board with that thing from the first time I got on it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, an 88 millimeter twin tip with
Metal,
like,
right?
yeah,
Which like doesn't really exist.
it does not exist. This is a very unique ski in the industry, and basically one of the main reasons why it's smack in the middle here.
Yeah. So Blizzard, if you want to make a Rustler 8, chances are Bob and I will really like it.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Yep.
You
You gotta hand me skis now. We're officially on your side of the wall.
Okay.
So the dynamic has changed.
Here, you can
Yep.
move that one all the way over to the scale.
Yep.
This is the new Ripstick 88 from Elan, and I would say out of the new changes for the Ripsticks, this is the one I like the best, the one that I get along with the best. I've always been an 88 fan. They've done a few things to this that make it a little bit more agile and more amenable to more skiers, I think, which is pretty surprising given how much of a universal appeal it had in the past. I think that with addressing kind of the agility issue, like how do they make this thing quicker, but somehow they did. So similar overall construction from a tube-like core perspective, where we do get the carbon rods along the side, as opposed to a full sheet or a partial sheet of carbon on the top. We now get 2 unidirectional strips along the bottom. And what that does is it takes the carbon away from your foot. You'll make fun of me for calling it insulation because you always like to think that I mean that they're warmer skis. But
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Your feet stay warmer.
your feet stay warmer. The carbon being separated from your foot by the wood core takes the ping out and makes it quieter overall. And then they also replaced vapor tips with flax laminate here in the shovel, which also caused them to make a thinner overall core profile. The vapor tip just took up more real estate from like a vertical perspective, it seems. And so by replacing that with flax, they're able to make the core profile thinner overall. As a result, 1,670 grams, which is like if we're talking about weight, a little bit
way
closer to over here.
Yep.
But what's putting it on this side of the wall is the fact that it just has more of a directional shape and style with just really, really good energy. Basically from mid-body on back, you're really feeling that pop coming out of the ski from those parts. It is like, it's still pretty soft in the shovel. I think skiers like yourself, Jeff, and other lighter skiers that aren't as classically trained as some more technical skiers, like you won't push through this tip. You'll enjoy how it eases you into the turn and engages you into the turn.
I'm a classically trained park skier.
Right, which is why you get along great with this.
And Nordic
with this
ski
tip
racer.
shape. Yeah,
Very classically trained Nordic ski racer. Does that count?
not in this conversation.
Fair
but
enough.
But-
I'm pretty good at skating from the gondola to the quad, and I would say a Ripstick 88 is a great skate ski.
Right, because you're able to push off the center, right?
And
You
they're
get-
light.
Yep, and
Yeah.
they're light, and then you get a lot of that energy out of the tail. So a little bit more directional and just more grippy in the tail, which I really, really enjoy. But the shovel is a little bit lower overall than it used to be, so kind of a lower profile splay here with that same kind of spoony tip shape. But it is a little bit narrower in the tip, a little bit wider in the waist. These actually measure out at 90 millimeters underfoot, and then a little bit wider in the tail. So they lengthen the turn radius about a meter. I think this is at 17.5, nope, 16.8, I apologize. But a little bit straighter of a cut and just more amenable to different turn shapes and styles. So pretty cool stuff. You know, it's got the amphibio profile as well. So more rocker on the uphill side, more camber on the downhill side, leading it to have just more edge grip overall and a smoother overall feel. So left and right specific skis still here. But really, really cool. Again, I would say this is more similar in flex to the old 88 than the new 96s and 102s.
That's fair,
Yeah,
I think. I like them all.
all of the skis or all of the ripsticks?
Both.
Yeah. No, I found more. I had more success on this 88 than the other new models. I think that this thing just absolutely. It's amazing how much energy that you're getting out of something so light.
Yeah, I mean, well, and for me, it's like I'm always amazed at how much edge grip I get.
Yeah.
It just feels, for me, it feels basically limitless.
Right.
Like edge grip. I can feel the longitudinal flex and like the limit to that, but when I'm just carving, they're so good.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, and we always ask how do they do it? How do they get that much power out of it? And it's the tubes. It's that 360-degree application of carbon that really makes all the difference in the world.
Yep. Next ski is the Dynastar M-Cross 88. So this is back unchanged for 2025. It was brand new last season. As our Dynastar Lang rep would almost definitely agree with me, it's sort of like maybe like a glimpse into the future.
Right.
I think that there's a lot here that we're going to see more and more of. And while we're on the conversation, it's not the shortest turn radius up here, but it is a 15-meter turn radius. It's a huge tip at 135, and they make like very, very dynamic kind of short to medium radius carving turns. They don't necessarily love doing that at speed, and kind of what I'm alluding to is I do think that there's like we're starting to see it already. There's this new kind of excitement about just like fun carving.
Right.
Not like race carving, but just like fun, like generating the like lateral G-forces of making a carving turn and really thinking more about like the side to side like forces and feelings rather than like how fast you're going and whether the ski is still gripping. So like things like the Miras core, like they promote this fun skiing, and I think M-Cross 88 does that It just does it in like a more directional format, which a lot of skiers will like, because I'm sure there are tons of people that look at the Miras core and they're like, no way.
Right.
Where like if you're more of a traditional skier or like more of a traditionalist in what you kind of want out of your ski, this is visually going to look better. Hybrid core 2.0, so poplar and then polyurethane along the edges. We don't really need to spend too much time on that because we've talked about hybrid core a lot with Dynastar. This does get like a slight H-shaped Titanal laminate underfoot. It's a little shorter than any other like H-shaped metal we're seeing. You know, even shorter than like Fischer Ranger there. Definitely shorter than like the Serpo, if we had a Serpo up here to compare. I'd say this plate's probably around 100 to 150 grams, which would put this right at 2,000 grams. It might actually be a little lighter than that.
And this is a 184 too, so this is a bit like the longer one. So
Yeah. What it was saying on the scale there is not really representative of how light it feels when you ski it. And it's not stiff by any means. Like, it's not built to be stiff. It is very smooth and consistent. And then the shape is where things get like pretty darn interesting. So big, wide, rockered, bulbous tip up here, which does a couple things. It floats really well, and it also like doesn't pull you into a turn, but it like gradually encourages you to make that turn. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
and I'll just kind of oppose it with its kind of sister company
which
ski
is
here.
wide all the way at the end.
Yeah.
And just rips you into the turn.
Yep.
And is super fun. Like, I'm excited to talk about Arcade and all the things that it does really well. But this ski is a little bit more, it's just more like amenable to different things.
The fluidity is there
Yeah.
from that initiation phase, I think. And then I skied this a lot early season last year, and I don't know if it's the best early season ski because the tail is very responsive and that short radius turn really comes through in the tail. So from the midsection back, you really feel just like a ton of energy shooting you into the next turn, which for early season stuff like isn't the best because your body's just not ready for it.
Yeah.
So like you get like the wider and smoother it is, the better that thing performs.
Yeah. I think it's worth kind of bringing up that they retain a little bit of versatility in it, like more than a ski like the Mirror's Core, because the Mirror's Core, the tail is so wide that it like kind of starts to feel weird behind you. This, like, we haven't talked about it in this comparison, but we did on another wall. So the tip is 135, the tail is 117.
Yeah.
So the taper from tip width to tail width is pretty significant, and I do think that at least let you make some short skidded turns.
Yeah.
I think it prefers being in that carving format, but like you can still do different stuff on it.
Yeah.
Rather than some skis that are kind of like going down this path, they feel like a little bit more one-dimensional. Like even like Sakana, like obviously we're in like a very different width range, but that ski, you know, basically makes the same carving turn, but doesn't really like love doing much else.
Yeah.
But this ski, I do think you can do some other stuff on it. Like I think you could make an argument that it should be further to the right because of its carving ability, but I think it makes sense over towards me because it's not just like stuck in that format.
Yeah, I think you got to be a willing participant in the process when it comes to versatility with this. You got to.
Yeah, it's not as easy as anything over here.
Yeah, you got to do a little bit of work.
Yeah, but it is there.
Yeah. We got a new one, Jeff. This is Liberty Radian 92. Another ski that's kind of right up my alley in terms of making short to mid radius carves on the side of the trail. This ski is, replacing the Evolve series of skis, although they are like vastly different. And we kind of talked about this with Scope in relation to Origin, where it's just a whole new thing. Different wood cores, different shapes, just a different attitude overall.
We can confidently say that this one is made in Poland.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can go back into Scope some other time and maybe correct ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we were slightly off on where Scopes are built. But yeah, totally new. And I don't want to steal your thunder here, but I would say, and correct me if you disagree, I would say that Scope is like, it's going to be a relatively specific application for its skier type and who's choosing it and whether you like it or not. This feels like it has very broad appeal.
Yeah.
And we saw it in testing too.
Totally. A lot of good feedback on the 92, and then there's a wider 100 as well. I think one of our Liberty days here at Stowe, we had kind of softer snow, nice sunny day. So it just sunny spring day. I think it was like cool to start, and then the snow softened naturally with the sun. So like that 100 made a lot of sense later in the day, but earlier the 92 was just perfect. And I also remember skiing at a Pico the first time and thinking that, this is what I was looking for with Evolve. Like I really enjoyed the smoothness of the Evolve series skis. Like the 90 specifically was a whole lot of fun in terms of a smooth performer. But the Radian 92 just brings the energy to the next level, as well as increasing the versatility. So we are built with a blend of poplar and ash in the wood core. And Jeff, we still get to say VMT, but in a different way. Aren't you excited?
Variable metal technology?
Variable metal technology. So right from this window here is where the metal ends. And then you can't see at the tail, but I would imagine it goes pretty much the same way through the end. It is full width underfoot and then tapers to a point here. And I kind of think that it's shaped similar to the way that the Rustler used to be shaped.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a Liberty Rustler.
Right. It is shorter though, like if you were to compare this to the Rustler 9. in terms of metal. The Rustler used to come all the way up. So
And a little bit more directional.
yep.
But
So metal underfoot, we do get poplar and ash in the wood core and carbon stringers as well. So nice energy out of this thing. A little bit stiffer than you may think, especially given the thinner core profile. Like if you put this up against your Rossignol there with that thicker Polonia, having this thinner core profile here just increases that mobility quite a bit, as well as making it just really, really easy to release the turn with good energy. This one's a little shorter, but pretty light, 1,564 grams here in the 173. And then really what we're looking for as opposed to Evolve is more rocker, more taper. If you remember Evolve, a lot more arcade-ish notes in that shape. So Radian is really taking it more to that all-mountain versatility / narrower free ride level. And you never saw a tail shape like this in an Evolve. They were very square, very, very flat. So seeing this rocker and taper in this Radian really kind of brings to the forefront of the conversation the fact that they're making these more versatile. And I think it works really, really well, especially when you're mixing conditions and terrain. I think that this Radian is an awesome ski for here in Vermont, any other place where you get kind of medium amounts of snowfall more of the time. Yeah. So when conditions kind of degrade throughout the day, you might start off on a smooth groomer, and then throughout the day, whether it's weather or just skier traffic, things get cut up, chopped up, and just kind of take a turn for the worse overall. Yeah. And this thing is going to be the ski that's going to bring you through it.
Well, that day that you were talking about, I had to leave early.
Yep.
And then you brought me all the footage, and I watched all the footage, and that's exactly what you did. I was like, hey, you guys skied like everything.
Yeah.
You like skied some groomers. Ryan made some carvy race turns on it, and then you skied some bumps. And
yep.
I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, it works really well. I mean, this is just a very accessible tip shape that kind of just does it all. You know, it does hook into the turn. You do feel that stiffness of the wood come through and the smoothness of the ash for sure. And then just a lot of rebound out of this tail. So I was very impressed with this Radian 92. I would say like one of the more rearward mount points. Yeah. Even, you know, it looks about 2 back from this Atomic here that it's next to, which we've always kind of thought felt a little bit longer in the shovel than the tail.
Yep, totally.
So that it's visually strange. Kind of almost feels like you're on your Montero, where you're like, whoa,
you get so much tip.
There's a lot of tip.
Yeah.
But it also just leads to a smooth shovel overall feel. But yeah, another ski kind of like that Optic, where it's instant appreciation for.
Yeah, they did a really good job with those.
Yeah. And the 100 just kind of takes the power to the next level. There's just more stuff.
Yep. Next ski up here is the Atomic Maverick 88 Ti. Excuse me. I might not make it, Bob.
I think you'll pull through.
Okay. We've made it. We've come this far. We can't give up now. This is another Maverick that is back unchanged. So we talked about this in the mid-90 comparison. We also talked about it in the mid-100, because in that we had the Maverick 105, which is new, and then we had the 95, and now we've got the 88. So this one's back again, unchanged. I told a little story about my own experience with the 95 and how I have grown more fond of it.
Yeah. For
whatever reason, I always really liked the 88. So I continue to really like the 88. I also think it's like kind of cool, like visually, we're getting into the like classic, popular, powerful all-mountain category. Yep. And I like that this is the first one that we start with because it's probably the lightest. I wonder that Stormrider 88, I'm eyeing that one, it might come close, but I don't think so. So this is their Omatic core, basically a lightweight wood core with 2 really thin sheets of metal. This is the 176, and it's only 1,660 grams. So given that there's 2 sheets of metal in it, the weight is very impressive to me. It is stiff. I almost just dropped it. So we've often compared these to head cores in the sense that they're very, very light and very, very stiff, and that is certainly true. I've always thought Mavericks were a little smoother. They get more vibration damping from the metal, and then they get a little bit more like soft snow compliance, or really just any kind of compliance from the Horizon Tech in the tip here. Never feels like too eager to engage into a carving turn, and then if you encounter some soft snow, it just goes through it like so smoothly. So I've always really appreciated that about this ski. There is a good amount of tip rocker regardless of that Horizon Tech. Camber underfoot, and then, you know, directional shape here, but there's enough kind of kick out of the tail here that it doesn't feel too catchy. And like, I don't know, you want to flip over an MX tail or anything over there, really? Probably
Sure.
MX is the best contrast, but, you know, just a big difference in how you finish the tail there.
Right.
So 2 sheets of metal, it's a strong ski, but with the weight, with the Horizon Tech, and with that shaping to the tail, there's definitely some quickness and a lot of versatility to this ski. It's not like it doesn't have just unflinching confidence at speed like some of the skis down there do. It's perfectly fine at speed. It's just like you don't get, it doesn't feel like a tank where like some of those skis, probably starting with like Declivity maybe,
Yeah.
they just have so much like substance that it feels like the ski will just go through anything. And I don't know that Maverick necessarily feels that way, but whatever it doesn't have there, I think it makes up for it in its versatility and its quickness. And I know there's a lot of people out there that love this ski, and for very good reason. You can carve, but then you can go like wiggle through trees and moguls and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's another one that kind of moves between that full sidewall underfoot and then the capped
Yeah, good point.
tips and tails. And to me, that basically means that they're very precise and crisp, especially
Yep.
with the lack of rocker, that when they get into the snow, that they're digging in and
Yep.
going through.
Yep. We actually probably had the exact same conversation in the mid-90s now that I'm thinking about it, but its sister brand ski over there, that Stance 90,
Yep.
I actually find that this ski and the Stance 90, like in terms of just all-mountain versatility, you cannot say that one is better than the other. This one just does it with more quickness and more responsiveness, and that one does it with like a little bit more like slarvy, smooth surfiness.
Yeah. No, I can say that for me, this Stance is a little bit easier to wrangle than that Maverick, which is very stiff in the tail.
Yeah.
And that's hard to just kind of get it to,
You just have to like be really engaged.
yeah.
You have to be like, you know, not only is the ski quicker and more responsive, but you as a skier
Yeah.
should, if you're choosing between those two skis or other, you know, other metal clad skis, you should be quicker.
Yeah.
You should be more responsive, and then you'll get along really well with a Maverick 88 here.
Yeah, no, I was thinking when you were talking about that the other skis, like an Enforcer 89 here, like you can get that thing going fast, straight, and then engage in a very smooth and capable carved turn.
Yep.
Whereas this one, you want to build up to that.
Yes, I
So
agree.
I don't think it starts well if you're at speed. I think you want to move with it.
Yep, I agree.
K2 Mindbender 89 Ti here. This is one of those skis, this is returns unchanged except for graphic, that really excels in the short to mid radius carves. I think that this has an uncommonly good rebound out of the tail. Like you feel the finish portion of the turn in this ski more than almost anything else. I will say that the Maverick is right there with it in terms of its finishing power and how it just releases you directly into the next turn. I think that people that are looking for more of an on-trail focused ski on this wall, but they don't want full metal and full-on just kind of raw power, really get along well with a Mindbender 89.
Well, yeah, and I think we're in like a really nice range right now.
Yeah, of mixed power.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like metal in a ski feels good to a lot of people.
yeah,
But 2 full sheets of metal with like crazy stiffness
yeah,
sometimes doesn't feel great. or at least not to everybody.
It just it makes it more one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Whereas this range here is still a little bit more open.
Yeah.
Almost 2,000 grams here in the 182 Jeff, 1989, and then a shorter-ish turn radius
It's almost
here.
the year I was born.
16.6 meters.
Let's see if we can get it there. 1984, 1986, I saw it.
Well, you got to go a little lighter. So shorter turn radius, kind of similar to what we see with your Dynastar and the Arcade here. Really just kind of finishing it a little bit stronger. I think that the tip shape is more into the kind of free ride realm, and then you feel that all mountain and front side capacity kick in through the tail. As opposed to their carbon spectral braid, we get Titanal Y-beam. So similar kind of theory where more metal in the forebody of the ski, that's giving you better grip at the front, and then full width underfoot, and then it tapers into kind of this odd geometric shape where it gets wider at the very end and then tapers in again. So this portion of the ski right here is what I'm talking about when it's like, all right, you feel like that's where you feel the ski is right at the very end, and it just really kicks you into the next turn.
They really upped that feeling with this latest version of the Mindbender.
Yeah, I thought it was
compared to the original one.
when it was just straight and through the middle. Yeah, totally. They definitely saw something that that they could use to improve the finish of the turn, and I totally think that it works. They did it as well with the tip where they brought in the upper portion of the Y a little bit just to make the ski a little bit more torsionally fluid, and it makes sense to me at least.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, aspen wood core like we see in pretty much all the K2s and the lines. Nice blend of lightweight and energy in the wood core, and then we get that metal, and that steps up the weight a little bit as well as bringing that dampness to the next level. It's pretty precise. You know, I think that when you're talking about off-trail stuff, there are some better options on the wall here. It's just like if you're in softer snow or trees and you just tip the ski up on edge, the metal really hooks in, and I think we'll kind of talk about that with Mantra 88 as well, where it's just anything that uses a frame or like a divide in order to emphasize that grip, it's going to have an adverse effect or a different effect on the other end. So for how good this is in terms of responding to input, it also makes it a little bit more difficult if you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So you do have to be aware of that. It also extends like well beyond the rocker. So there's a lot of metal beyond where the rocker is, and that's just an interesting design that we normally you see kind of the rocker stop or the metal stop and the rocker start. So this is a little bit different and does increase the precision of that input there. And then kind of a low rocker profile in the tail, and that also, I mean, right where the camber stops is where the metal is at its widest. So it's all designed to give you that energy out of the tail.
Yeah.
But I had a blast on these this year. We had a nice spring day. I just think that they carve beautifully well. I don't think that like people looking for a versatile ski are going to land on that. I think people that are looking for a wider carver are going to land there and be really happy.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's actually an interesting comparison, Maverick to Mindbender to Stance to Declivity. Like they're all like right in the same category, but yeah, you could probably shift some things around in there on the comparison wall, or you could at least make an argument too.
Yeah, but they're certainly in the same zone. I think within these 7, you could do a little mixing and matching.
Probably do that for hours.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put any of them out of this zone.
No. Can I have that Stance 90?
As long as you're going to say wonderful things about it.
Sure, yeah. Okay. I wasn't planning on saying anything bad about it. Is that because you really like it?
I do really like it.
So this is the Stance 90. Bob really likes it. It's got a mixture of poplar and caruba in its core, so kind of interesting. Like Salomon and Armada are basically sort of sister companies, and they kind of like traded wood core materials a little bit over the past 2 years. I don't have any issue with that. And then there are 2 sheets of metal, but in both the tip and the tail, I really like the forebody and the aft or rearward section. They cut out a window of the top sheet of metal, and instead there's carbon and flax in that window. So kind of a weight-saving method. I don't know that. Does it add to performance? I don't really know. No one ever really talks about it.
No, I think it's supposed to. The theory is if it was 2 full sheets with this build,
retaining.
then it would be a little bit rough.
Fair enough.
So I think it's opening the flex and creating versatility.
I'm going to say it enhances its performance.
All right.
So this is a 182 centimeter length, and again, 2 sheets of metal, full wood core, like good core thickness, vertical sidewalls, and we're at 1,875 grams. So while we're far heavier than the lightest ski up here, it's not heavy,
right,
especially for having 2 sheets of metal in it. And like kind of similar flex pattern. It's not the stiffest ski up here. We're definitely going to look at least 3 skis that are way stiffer as we move further down that wall, but still enough stiffness to be supportive for aggressive skiing. And then I really like the shape of these Stance skis. You know, to me, Salomon is like, they do feel more like a free ride ski company these days. You know, they're in like their Instagram tag, like Salomon Free Ski.
Right.
Like that's a huge part of their company. And I do feel like there is like some free ride influence in this ski, even though it's their like narrow, powerful all mountain ski. You know, because if you go down to the 84, you don't have as much metal. So like the 90 is kind of like, if you want all mountain but narrow-ish and metal, like
yep,
this is the ski. And we still get a good amount of tip rocker in this ski. There is camber underfoot, but it's not aggressive camber, you know what I mean? Some of these skis have such high camber height and they're so hard to decamber that it definitely changes the way that they feel on snow. And then this one's got a good amount of tail rocker back here as well. And I've just always thought that the Stance 90, and I think it's especially true in its newest version, this is the same as last year, just new top sheet graphic, but it is just so smooth and like, I want to say compliant because I can't think of a better word off the top of my head, but you can like rip carves on it, but then you can do like a big slashy turn. Not like the quickness of the Maverick, more slow, slashy, smeary. And I've always really appreciated that. And I'd like, you could say this about a lot of these skis, Maverick, Mindbender, Declivity, Stormrider. This is plenty for most people. Like, when we take it out on test days or media shoot days, we have some like big, strong, heavy skiers on it, and no one's like struggling or seeking more edge grip or stability at speed.
Yeah.
So I really think it's like, it's important for skiers to like have that true kind of honest self-assessment process. Is like, say you love carving, you know, you're a powerful skier, you like to ski fast. Is this enough for you? It probably is. And then with that comes more versatility. You know, it feels pretty darn good off trail, I think. Feels good in soft snow. It doesn't ever feel catchy. It's not too demanding, where I feel like the further you go down that wall, those are the things that start coming up.
I've always enjoyed the longer turn radius of this. So
it's 20, right?
19, I think, in that length. But still, that's like on the longer side of skis that we're dealing 19. With here. And to me, that just means that it has more of a classic nature to it.
Well, that's where, for me, a lot of the like smoothness comes from. Is it's just like, it just rolls down the mountain, making these beautiful turns, but then it's completely willing to release the edge.
Yeah, and that's kind of a funny thing about a longer turn radius is that the assumption is that, oh, you can't get it sideways or make shorter swing turns, but it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's almost easier to make a shorter swing skidded turn, which like I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
So something like that with that energy with the metal and the longer turn shape really speaks to me as a skier.
Should we look back 2 years back and which which ski between Stance and Declivity did we say was like, I don't know that we did this progression of slarvy to carvy, but if it was 2 years ago, I think they'd be switched.
Right, because that was full poplar and this was full caruba.
Right.
And now this is full poplar and that's a mix.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Kind of
interesting. More metal in the Stance, though. This.
Yeah, but that wood density.
It does
really
make a
plays
difference.
into it. Yeah.
This is Armada Declivity 92 Ti, and kind of what we talked about with the 88C in terms of it finding a different audience. I think this one's much more similar. They are keeping...
Look at, there's that dense wood.
Yeah. Moved to poplar wood on this ski for this year, plus the articulated Titanal banding laminate here, 2,100 grams, and about as solid and quiet and smooth of a ski as you're going to get. It is just incredibly silent. We often, I love how it's right next to the Stockli here because they both share very similar sounds in terms of there isn't much.
Right.
And this was the case with Declivity last year with the caruba. It is just exponentially grown with the poplar core in this 92 Ti. What you're missing though is a little bit of that zest. So I think that in making this smoother and more powerful is a good thing for skiers that are more aggressive and prefer higher speed stability. But then there's a skier that really kind of might have enjoyed that lighter weight feel of the caruba because it was paired with the metal, that they might miss that a little bit.
Well, Bob, they can just go buy a Stance 90.
Right. They sure can. And they'll probably be pretty happy. I think that both of these skis represent, that really nice blend of high performance smoothness with a lower speed amenability.
Yeah, I agree.
And this one is really fun, kind of in that mid-radius arc. I think that following Matt on these skis
I was just thinking about Matt.
Yeah, it was really kind of a fun experience filming him and seeing just the amount of satisfying medium radius carves he can make from top to bottom was pretty awesome. But yeah, definitely more of a sturdy feel than before.
Yeah, that 2,100 grams, it's pretty sturdy.
Yeah, and they didn't change the profile or the shape at all, which to me is interesting because they're keeping that camber fully intact. Kind of what we saw with the 88C, like there's a lot of camber underfoot here, and you were just saying, I guess the Salomon, that it wasn't as dramatic, but yeah, you got to kind of push to get these skis to decamber. And not overly dramatic rocker, but definitely more of a spoony tip shape here. So it is keeping this thing kind of open to the idea of soft snow, but the fact that it performs so well in a carved turn on groomed terrain makes it just kind of fall more into that all mountain carving category. It doesn't have like that super drifty and floaty shape. Some tail rocker, not a lot. Nice little bump out at the end here, similar to what we see with K2, like you really feel the back end of the turn here. 17.5 meter turn radius as well. So I think that makes it, that paired with the camber, definitely makes it more of an engaging carver than the Stance in terms of being on a high edge angle and feeling that thing just rip around in a perfect, clean C-shape arc and then right into the next one.
Yeah.
So lots of like, kind of those mid-air transitions, like launching out of one and landing in the other. That's where this Declivity really comes in handy. So I'm pretty psyched on this thing.
A lot of people love it.
Yeah.
You see it come up in like, even just comments on these videos a lot.
Right.
Of a lot of people, like, someone will ask a question, be like, I'm looking for a powerful all-mountain ski, and somebody will just be like, don't look past Declivity 92.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is awfully black and white. But they're not wrong either.
Yeah, no,
like,
for sure.
Good answer.
Yeah.
So.
And just the silence of this thing just is very reminiscent of the quality that we see from Stockli. So if you're looking for that style of ski, but you don't want to spend Stockli money, Declivity is a nice, more affordable option.
I want to spend Stockli money.
All right. You are more than welcome to do so, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, so this is the Stockli Stormrider 88. I've always thought this ski was kind of interesting, and this was a similar conversation that we had with the mid-90s as well. It is like such a premium product, but like, you know, even like, what's more powerful, a Stormrider 88 or an Arcade 88?
Yeah, the Arcade is.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
So it's not like the most powerful ski up here, but when it comes to like precision and refinement and like overall skiing experience, it's almost hard to put it into words why Stockli is as good as it is, and it's like kind of something that you need to experience. And I know some people just think that is like wildly outrageous, and like I don't necessarily disagree with you, because they're really expensive, and like, what do we really need this like premium skiing experience? But
some people, I mean, I don't know.
if you've got the budget, I would say yes.
Yeah, but
like, it's
also
really
at
good.
the end of the day, they're only like, what, $400 or $500 more than...
True.
You know, I think the sticker value of it is like, I'm not paying $1,300 for a ski, but
The sticker shock,
you're
yeah.
pretty much paying $900 for most of these skis.
Most that like
most
you
on
can
this
talk,
side.
have a similar conversation about.
Yeah. So when you really kind of think about the difference, and it's like, all right, well, for me, that's a week of groceries for my family. Like, it's not like this is unattainable. Like, you can budget it to make it happen.
You're just not going to eat?
You got to have your priorities, right? So if you want
So your whole family's just not going to eat?
for a week
For a
and then-
Stormrider 88.
and then I get a Stormrider, yeah,
Pretty reasonable.
I'll take that.
So anyways, it's a lightweight wood core in these skis, which I think is really cool. And then we get their Tech application of metal. So one of the sheets of metal is just the top sheet, and we've talked about that at length, but it's a like very effective thing for performance, but it also is reducing overall weight. And they're only 1,735 grams. This is the 175, so very light for a ski with this much metal. It even just like, it is metal.
Yeah,
Visually, it just looks like metal. Like, if to the uneducated eye, you would probably guess that this has the most metal if you were just looking at the wall, because it looks like it's all metal. But it's not heavy, and it's not like crazy stiff either. But what happens is you've got a very precise shape. So if it was shaped differently, there's no way it would be as far to the right as it is in this comparison when it comes to like maneuverability to carving. But because it has this shape, it 100% belongs in the spot that it's in, and you could even say that it could go further. It's kind of just that like the next 5 skis like kind of like surpass it at high speed, and I think that's a big consideration for a lot of carving skiers. But there's almost no tip rocker. Stockli would probably say that it has like progressive freeride tip rocker.
right. This is as rockered as it gets in Stockli world.
Yeah, exactly. And then Stockli would probably also tell you that it has like robust tail rocker, but I'm here to tell you that that's not tail rocker, and I don't mean to like tell Stockli that they're wrong. It's just like they have the Swiss opinion of rocker is different than the American opinion of rocker, and I just think that's fascinating. So to me, there's no rocker in this ski. It is basically just a cambered ski. 18.4 meter turn radius, and a cambered ski without really taper and an 18 meter turn radius is going to carve really well. And this ski carves really, really well, and it does it all with just this level of refinement that is lost on probably anything else up here except maybe that MX88, but that ski feels more demanding.
Yeah.
So like this ski is just like, it's willing to just cruise, you know, if you want to. Bob, this could be a great retirement ski for you in your Bretton Woods days.
I can't wait to get to Bretton Woods with the Stormrider 88 if they still make it at
Bretton
that
Woods
time.
has a lot of like moderately pitched, like rolling groomers, and this ski is going to make that feel like an absolute dream.
I can't wait. You're getting me excited already.
It can still handle steeper terrain, like we were talking about lift line here at Stowe, which is really steep and generally groomed. This ski can handle that too. It's going to excel in that application, it's just not quite as like speed driven as some of those other skis over there. But just incredible, super fun to ski. And then I actually think they work a little bit of versatility into it, despite that squared off flat tail, just because it's not too stiff and because it's pretty light.
Yeah.
So you can kind of flick it around and get it to go from one point to another without it being terrifyingly unforgiving or fatiguing or anything like that.
Yeah.
And there's rubber dust.
Can't forget about that.
What was the outside of ski industry application of rubber dust that we were talking about the other day?
I don't remember.
It was like cars or something. Like, why isn't rubber dust used on everything?
To make it better.
To make it smoother and
I always caution people against of the tail of this ski, which is pretty stiff.
It is.
Like it's different than the shovel.
But like the weight.
Yeah.
For me, the weight of it just like kind of counters any of the concerns.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure.
It's not, I don't think an intermediate should buy it. I think that would be like a weird decision here. I can help.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. I just don't fully agree.
Sometimes you feel like you're coming out of a turn and that tail says, not yet.
A skidded turn. Sure. Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Well, the shape is very carving focused.
Yeah.
So.
Great
ski here.
We're both pretty excited about this new Blizzard Anomaly 88. Hard to say that, like, all right, they've done it. They've made a better Brahma 88. And I think that Brahma 88 purists are going to have a slight hesitation here, but I don't think that it's 100% warranted. I really think it's like the 1% of the 1% that might find a slight drop off in that tip to tail power. But the versatility of this far surpasses any potential downturn in carving power and performance.
Yeah. And if you're that skier and you're finding like a limitation to power of Anomaly 88, congratulations.
Yeah, you've done it.
Because you're there. You're one of the best skiers in the world.
Yeah. No, they've really done a great job with this thing, and I just have found that the capabilities of this new Anomaly far surpass whatever power you may have found in the Brahma.
Yeah.
Interesting construction. We still have their True Blend technology here, so stronger, denser beech wood through the center, and then poplar stringers going more to the outside. And then we get 2 full sheets of metal. They are broken up. Full sheet along the bottom, and then the top layer is a central strip in the middle here, and then the remaining portions go along the sides.
It was a mutual breakup.
I think everyone was happy with the move. Yeah. But you get all the metal. You just get it in different layers along the ski, and it's interesting to see how different companies put different layers places. Your Stormrider with the metal on top is in like direct contradiction to Ripstick with the carbon on the bottom. So moving those, like moving a more reactive material away from your foot lowers the sound, whereas keeping that damp material closer to your foot.
Well, it's like the Stockli.
Right. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense because it's closer to your body. Yep. So they're keeping that dampness closer. But yeah, really cool construction overall with those materials and how they separated the metal. And then the 2,190 grams here and the 182. Maybe this Enforcer's a little heavier, but probably pretty close to heaviest. And then still pretty darn robust and stiff in the flex. The biggest thing changing this from Brahma is the addition of more tail rocker and a little bit more in the tip as well. So longer, but still not terribly dramatic, certainly more engaging than a lot of other skis on this wall. And then more tip rocker, a little bit more splay, longer in the rocker profile. And this is what really increases the versatility of the ski, is its ability to just rise up and stay on top of softer snow while still being really engaged in a carved turn. And, you know, we kind of have those pictures that we talked about where, you can see I'm coming at the camera and the tip of the ski is out of the snow.
Yeah.
And it looks very Rustler-ish. It doesn't look Brahma-ish.
Yeah.
And those, like that certainly feels that way. Like
Yeah.
it feels more like a Rustler in softer snow, and then it feels like a Brahma on firmer snow. So I think that combining those two really was a good move. You know, I don't think that anyone looking for a Rustler 8, like if you're looking for a Rustler 8 but way more powerful, like then you're here. It's not like it's not like a lateral move. It's definitely a different thing.
Definitely.
So anytime that we kind of alluded to that, there is that caveat that this is still very, very powerful.
This is more of a Rustler 8 than that.
Yeah, totally.
By far.
Yeah.
But yes. And I love the orange on the tails and the base.
Yeah, you're seeing how much rocker is in the ski based on that orange.
Yeah.
So pretty cool stuff there.
Kind of like the visual things that Nordica does.
Yeah. But yeah, 1,000% impressed. Similar to the Optic 88, where
they're incredible.
Yeah, first time out, there's just an easygoing yet supremely powerful feel to it.
No, they rip on firm snow. Like they still make that crazy Brahma-esque turn, but they actually let you do other stuff now.
Yeah, I can ski bumps
without feeling like it's going to break your leg.
Yeah, I can ski bumps on these a lot easier than a Brahma.
Yeah.
And then like, it's not like I could ever find the top end of that Brahma. So like, I don't need it. This is more than enough.
Right.
Similar to what you were talking about with the Stance 90.
Right.
Like it's plenty of ski for pretty much everyone out there.
Yep. And also similar to what we were saying about like Stance and Armada, like Blizzard and Nordica, their two competitor skis have basically traded places. Where like the Enforcer 88 was always the slightly more versatile, more maneuverable all-mountain ski, and the Brahma was just burly and stiff. And now it's basically just flipped. And that's not to say that both skis can't like be versatile skis. They're just, one is more challenging.
This is 18-meter turn radius, and the thing I like about that is you can find it.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely access the entirety of the side cut here.
Yeah.
But awesome new ski from Blizzard for sure, and I think it lines up well with the rest of the skis here for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you could certainly make an argument to put these two together, maybe that, but...
So it's interesting that you say that. I was going to wait until I had the ski in my hand, but this was unintentional. But I think it's really cool that I get to talk about Stormrider and Mantra 88 and MX88, and you get to talk about Anomaly, Enforcer, and Arcade, because each of those three little groupings of skis actually feels like a really good little mini comparison.
Yep.
Like, I think I have the three more precise skis. Stormrider 88 is very precise. Mantra 88 here, I'm going to say Kendo at least once, is very precise. And then MX is also very precise.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is they get slightly stronger or like slightly more powerful. And then like this, basically the same thing happens with the three skis that you get to talk about, where like Anomaly to Enforcer to Arcade, they're not as precise, but they're like, it's the same progression of power.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Mantra 88. It has a new name, but aside from that, it's the same ski as the Kendo 88 from the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
We saw all those changes to the M7 Mantra, and if we were to guess, we'll get those similar changes to this ski for 2026, but I don't know that for a fact yet, and I won't for probably at least a while. And that absolutely does not mean that this is a bad ski. We've been talking about how good this ski is for like 3 years now, and we'll continue to talk about it because it's a really good ski. Multi-layer wood core, and then we get that tailored Titanal frame and tailored carbon tip. We've talked about Volkl construction a lot, but just like the way that they combine all these different materials and elements is very German.
Yeah, you can tell that there's architectural drawings and like design classes built on this stuff.
The amount of engineering that goes into these skis is just off the charts. So even just having one in your hand, like I would encourage you to, even if you're not in the market, go to your local ski shop and like pick up a Mantra 88 and just like take some time to look at it, because it is like kind of a work of engineering art. It's an engineering marvel. There's another layer of metal underfoot. They don't connect, and then they've got like a slit cut into it, and it's just like, there's basically too much to talk about. So go find yourself to talk about it. Very strong skis, very powerful. We are just 1,930 grams. So it's not like, it's, you know, we're more than 250 grams lighter than an Anomaly 88. And that's a significant difference. But they're still pretty darn stiff. So, you know, when we have a stiffer flex pattern and a lightweight ski, that just kind of like boosts the responsiveness. And I'd say that's a big thing with Mantra 88 here, compared to a lot of those metal-clad skis. Is it's very responsive and very precise. It like reacts immediately to skier input, which is cool. Very Volkl shaping here. Everything is very flat. So long tip rocker, but not much splay at all. Good amount of camber, but not a lot of camber height. And then same is true in the tail here. And really like that works hand in hand with 3D radius. So this ski has a 29-meter radius. I should probably read it like the right side up. 29-meter radius in the tip, 16 underfoot, and 25 in the tail. And with the construction, with the flex pattern, and with that shape, it just allows you to make so many different style turns. You know, you can kind of just like weight different sections of the ski, and it'll bring you into a different radius turn. And then with the like straighter cuts in the tips and tails, it releases better than a lot of skis like that can hang with its power and performance on trail. So very, very, very good choice for a technical, deliberate skier. You know, if you're kind of just like pointing your skis down the fall line and figuring it out after that, say you're better off on an Anomaly. But if you're skiing with like purpose and precision, then your chances are you're going to love a Mantra 88. And I don't think I said kendo.
You said it twice, but only referring to
not saying it. Perfect. I'll take that as a win.
I love standing on the edge on these skis.
It's so fun.
And just playing with your edge angles and your fore-aft pressure.
Yep.
And you can feel the ski do vastly different things even within a singular turn. Way more so than any other ski on this wall.
Yep.
So those are really interesting aspects of it. And then you could also not think about it at all and just rip
and just ski it.
GS turns.
Yep.
Totally happy.
Yep. It's really cool. It's still not like the easiest off trail. You know, I think we lost off trail ease at least somewhere back with Stance.
Yeah.
But you know, a technical strong skier, you can do it and you'll be just fine. And then it's like that same conversation of like, I know that there are people out there that whenever we say things like that, they're like, oh, I can do it just fine. And again, congratulations.
Right.
Like you're a very good skier.
No, the flatness helps.
It does. It really does.
We said that about the M7 Mantra as well. It's built for precision and power, but it's also flat enough that you can manage it if you have to.
Yeah, and we talked about moguls, like a decent amount with that M7 Mantra. I would say this is better.
I'd say so too.
Because it's just a little bit quicker edge to edge. Like when you 96 underfoot and that Mantra is getting a bit excessive for moguls, where this just is quicker.
Yep. No, you can do it. New Enforcer 89 here from Nordica. Pretty impressive what they've done with these Enforcer series of skis, and really interesting how this 89 fits into it. As you were saying earlier, that older 88 really fit into the narrower of the group and kind of more inspired by the shape of the 100. I think they've done a better job at kind of separating the skis and making them each more individual. And basically, it almost seems like they're still starting with that 99 now.
Yeah.
But they're not really using the same theory to apply to each. So some things do, like the construction. So the 89 features a new wood core, still poplar and beech. It's thicker overall, so there is more stiffness and more sturdiness to this ski than the 88 had in the past. 2 sheets of metal, they are narrower than before, just brought in 2 inches along the sides, and then we have pulse core laminate underfoot. So we've seen pulse core in the Spitfire and Doberman and Wild Bell and Steadfast series from Nordica. And now that that damping laminate is making its way into Enforcer as well. So it's a smoother overall feel. These are very stiff. You know, amazingly, that Arcade even has this by a little bit, but these are very stiff skis, very robust.
Can I have an MX88?
Sure. I'll give you just a bit of forewarning. You got to flex the tip differently than the middle. That is it's a different feel.
Oh God. You ready?
Yeah, 2,140 grams here in the 185.
So it's like, this is stiffer than MX88.
Yeah. But
even through the midsection.
I mean, it's so thick.
Yeah.
You know, it's just they've really done it, making this thing even more comprehensive in an on-trail format and a little bit less rockered than the wider versions. So we found this to be a very capable on-trail carver, really happy in a carve turn, and just extremely rewarding in that regard as well. You got to work for it though. It's really it's one of the more demanding skis here for sure, due to the weight, due to the flex, and the fact that it's just got a very, very stiff tail. Off trail, again, you got to work for it. You got to be an active participant in the process. If you're in crud and chop and stuff like that, you can let it run and float through. The minute that you have to put more effort into it to get it to engage in different shape turns and styles, it just gets more demanding.
It's just maneuvering.
Yeah.
That's not like a soft snow limitation.
Yeah.
It's a quickness limitation.
Yeah. You know, you can still ski it in the bumps, you can still ski it in the trees, but again, you gotta be on it in order to make it do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
As we talked about with Nordica before, these cheat sheets on the tail or in the tips and tails show where the rocker starts and the taper and the difference there, and how you just get a longer effective edge and a smoother overall feel. And that certainly carries through to these 89s.
Can you hand me 2 anomalies?
Maybe.
You're still showing tail rocker?
Yeah. But this is like, I would say this is like more consistent. That's a little bit more curved.
Put your hand where the tail rocker starts.
Right here.
Yeah, so like this is longer tail rocker.
Yeah.
Which, if you were like comparing Brahma and Enforcer, I'm 99% sure that was not the case.
And then without decambering it, this is where my tip rocker starts.
You still have like kind of like at least the same or similar tip rocker. But
you got a spoonier tip shape. Like this is a little bit sharper.
It's just interesting how these 2 skis have changed and how they compare to each other. Thank you.
But yeah, this new Nordica Enforcer 89 is just a blast. Mostly on groomed terrain and smoother surfaces. I do think that there's an off-trail capability, but not the strong suit. You know, I think that there's, you know, with Enforcer, especially now that they're, you know, taking that 104 down from the free level, that they're still pushing more creative skiing into Unleashed. You know, and granted this is narrower than those, but still, that's kind of where they're going with it. This is really a strong on-trail ski that can perform off-trail, but it's difficult.
Yep.
But I'm pretty impressed, and they're just a ton of fun to turn on. We had a good spring day, and they were just so much fun.
Oh, I still got mine over here.
You have yours over there, yeah?
So next ski is the Kastle MX88. New MX88 for 2025. It's really exciting. When did we talk about impossibly thin?
I guess when we were doing Paragon.
Oh, sure. Well,
we haven't talked about these at all yet.
Yeah, so poplar and beech stringers, I actually was thinking when you were talking about that Nordica, it's like interesting how much beech we have kind of
Right.
towards that end of the wall. But poplar and beech wood core in here with just those super thin struts. I combined strips and struts.
For struts.
Strits.
Yeah.
It's a new word. It's not crazy heavy, so 1,980 grams. This is the 181 centimeter length. They did change the metal application, so there's still 2 sheets of metal in this ski, but the metal like ends right here.
Yeah, you can see it on the sidewall.
It's extremely visual. Yeah, I mean, you can see it even just looking at the top sheet and not looking at the sidewall at all. So it ends basically where hollow tech starts. And like Bob was talking about with the flex pattern, it does give it like a softer flex pattern right there.
Yeah.
But if you like flip it over and just try and flex like that portion, it's very stiff. And then it's super stiff through like the mid body, the central section of this ski. Really what puts it as the second to last ski on the slarvy to carvy progression is its shape. So there is some tip rocker up here, but not a lot, and there's not a lot of splay at all. And then similar to what we saw in Stockli, there's like no tail rocker. And then just completely squared off flat
with
tail.
more metal.
Yeah.
You know, same that we see with this Stockli is like additional metal inserted into the tail.
Right. I mean, the end of this ski is just a chunk of metal.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. I do think they've like refined it a little bit, and I think it's more compliant at slower speeds than it used to be, but it's still a pretty burly ski that just loves to rip carving turns. And I really like that they stopped here. There's no more MX88.
Yeah.
And
I know some people are sad, but
yeah, I just think it's like the correct place for this ski to be. And yeah, it just like, it makes beautiful turns. We've got a lot of footage of Ryan Daniels skiing it, and he's got an awesome race background, and you can tell that this ski was designed for somebody like him.
Yeah, the former racer crowd
Yep.
get along great with an MX88.
Yep. And you're not gonna find much versatility out of it. Again, like you just need to be a really good skier, but incredibly responsive, incredibly precise. It is so rewarding to ski, and it's the same conversation really that we had with Stormrider 88 and Kendo. This to me just feels a little stronger, or sorry, Mantra, a little stronger than Mantra.
He did it.
And I would say noticeably stronger than Stormrider. The skiing experience between Stormrider and MX is very similar. Like, you'll walk away from it being like, that's an incredible premium ski. This just like goes a little faster.
Yeah.
But they're fantastic. And I think like they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Similar to Stockli. Like when you have them in your hand, it makes sense why they cost as much as they do.
Yep, just starve your family for
the
a week.
metal finish to the shovel and everything. It's just like, it's just a snazzy ski. You know what else I really like? I'm getting pretty superficial. I like that the holotech is black on the top sheet graphic, and then like red on the base.
Yeah, that's fancy. I didn't notice that.
I know, right? Isn't that fancy?
Yeah.
And I don't think any Kastlis have ever had that look before.
I don't know. Try your ZX.
The 2 different color holotech. Oh. When did that change? Did it change with ZX?
I don't know. I've just never noticed it before on any of the skis. So for me, it's all very recent.
Well done, Kastle. I really like the dual colored holotech. So I don't have too much else to say about MX. I mean, it's still the same kind of ski that it's always been. They just refined it a little bit, mostly just with its turn initiation, as it's a little bit more forgiving. It's a little bit more supple and willing to enter a carving turn. I'd say the previous ski really felt like it was fighting you at times, where this ski, when it comes to engaging a carving turn, it doesn't feel like it's fighting you. it feels like it's kind of encouraging and helping you to do that.
Yeah, and I think you could make kind of the argument that this could be considered less carvy than the Enforcer or the Mantra, but I think your tail shape...
It's just the tail.
I think your tail shape conversation puts it over here.
It's not as powerful, really. It's just...
Yeah.
It's the cleanliness to how it likes to finish a turn.
Speaking of finishing, Jeff, it's our last ski on the wall here.
Yeah.
This is a new Rossignol Arcade 88. It's safe to say that this is replacing the Experience 86 Ti, at least in catalog form, but they're pretty darn different skis. Like,
yeah,
this is a very, very interesting model here, and for all the fun we had on it, there's also limitations, and I think it's important to note that I think that experience was more versatile. It had more rocker and was just a little bit easier to make different turn shapes and styles. This is quite a bit more comfortable in a 15-meter arc.
Yeah.
Like, this thing lives for 15-meter radius turns. And it does not care what type of snow surface you're on. It's going to make a 15-meter turn radius regardless. And I see you flexing your ski over there.
I'm trying.
Trying to flex. I mean, it is...
I'm not actually really trying that hard. I'm mostly just leaning on it.
I mean...
It's very stiff.
It's very stiff. And they are getting this from a full poplar wood core and 2 sheets of metal and line control technology through the middle. Like your other Rossignol over there, and like we alluded to, the thickness of the core matters. And that's where they get a lot of their stiffness from in terms of, that tip to tail torsional and longitudinal flex.
Yeah.
We got the binding on there. It's not worth weighing, but they're not overly heavy, which I think is really interesting.
No.
It's not, it doesn't feel like an Enforcer type weight on your feet.
No.
It definitely feels more nimble from a turning standpoint. But if you want to shorten it from a 15 and make short skidded turns, it's gonna let you know how it feels about it, which is really, really interesting.
The tail shape is striking to me. The extended side cut.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as like squared, but that's so wide.
Yeah.
Right there. And then like that kind of, it almost feels like it gets like progressively wider right at the end. And then when you've got a finish to a tail like that with this flex pattern, it just rockets you out of a turn. It's so much fun to ski.
They are incredibly rewarding to ski that mid-radius carve. And we kind of talk about our North Slope test, kind of a mellow blue groomer. And what ski makes a mellow blue groomer the most fun and exciting, I think, is something to point a finger at. And
or Perry Merrill.
Yeah, something that's...
it just makes beautiful turns.
Yeah.
Down moderately pitched groomers.
Yeah.
And it makes beautiful turns down steep groomers too. You just get going really fast.
Right. I have a hard time hanging on at that level, with that 15-meter arc and this being so stiff. Like, I'm just not that quick or athletic to keep up with it.
Yeah.
But very much that classic style of shape with a lot of rocker underfoot and a lot of camber underfoot, not a lot of rocker or taper in the tips and tails. And you had shown the tail over there, but certainly with them together, there are, I guess, flatter tails we see in Stockli or maybe Kastle. And it's a good thing that this does not adhere to those tail requirements in terms of being square and adding metal chunks to it. So you can release a little bit, but overall, this thing prefers to be in a carved turn and adhering to that 15-meter arc. And in that realm, it's incredibly powerful. Like, you really have to push hard to get it up on the required edge to make that turn, but it loves it.
Yeah.
And just subsequent
very rewarding
link turns, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's a versatility issue here from an 88mm all mountain ski, where we see some that just excel in versatility and well-roundedness. This one is a little bit more pigeonholed into groom carved terms.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's got friends. It's not there by itself.
No, for sure not.
it's sitting in that spot with some very popular skis with strong followings.
Yeah.
So, like, who knows? It might gain a strong following of its own.
Yep.
You might start to see a ton of Arcade 88s out there, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Because every time I've never had a bad time skiing it.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Like,
and like you can go a little bit shorter too. Like this is a 178. Like I wouldn't go longer.
Yeah, sure.
You know, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
So you can access that carve with a slightly shorter length because of the build.
A84 is like maybe a little bit more versatile because it's softer.
But not much. I mean, it's really the metal and the power of the metal that makes this thing stand out.
Yeah.
But really impressive skis overall, and extraordinarily powerful.
And I think that's it.
Yeah.
So that was it. That was a lot. That was a lot of skis. That was definitely our longest comparison ever. It was a little bit longer than the last one.
Cool.
Definitely let us know if you have any questions about any of these skis. I feel like we could keep talking about them for another hour and not run out of things to say. So yeah, if you've got any questions, we're more than happy to answer them. And I believe next we're gonna do 100 underfoot.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of similar conversations.
Similar, but different too.
Yeah.
You know, like QST 98 so much different than QST 92.
Yeah,
And
and
that's always a fun one.
we'll drop a bunch of twin tips too, probably, but pick up more freeride oriented twins.
Yeah, we pick up like Unleash 98,
Yeah,
Black Ops, Super Black Ops.
right.
So anyways, let us know if you have any questions and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.